Never give in. Never give in. Never, never, never. In nothing, great or small, large or petty, never give in except to convictions of honor and good sense. Never yield to force. Never yield to the apparently overwhelming might of the enemy.
You're listening to the Outlaw Radio Network. OutlawRadioNetwork.com.
This country can't be knocked out with one punch. We get right back up again, and when we do, the world's going to hear the roar of our engines.
But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
You do your work, and we will do our bit.
Republic. I like this sentiment. It means people can live free, talk free, go or come by or sell, be drunk or sober, however they choose.
Are you ready to be who you are?
No poetry, just a straight answer.
The government has deliberately sought to deceive the United States by false statements and expressions of hope for continued peace.
We are men of the hood. That ain't how you'd expect.
But there's no both sides anymore. They're just trying to wreck our goddamn country. Time for you younger guys to take over.
You were meant to be here tonight. This is your time. Their time is done. It's over. Screw them. This is your time. Now go out there and take it.
If you guys don't start thinking as men, we're gonna have a lousy country.
For the crimes of incitement to cause unrest, I declare to be an outlaw.
All right, everybody, it is the Outlaw Radio Network, November 3rd, 2024, 48 hours away from election results trickling in. It is, it's like, it's overtime.
We are 48 hours away from the next Borg invasion. That's right.
It's like overtime.
Yeah.
Seahawks and the Rams. Who wins? And who, I don't know, whatever team.
Listen, first of all, don't talk smack about it. I thought the young coach made the right move by going forward on fourth in overtime.
I agree.
I respected where he was coming from. And guess what? Had he kicked the field goal, they'd have lost anyway.
Yeah. No, I don't think so.
Yeah, they would have lost anyway because the Rams went right down and scored a touchdown.
Maybe. All right. So really full show tonight. Let's kind of set the scene. In just a moment, we'll talk for about a half an hour with Frank Aquila, our conservative insider, author of the book, Sarah Palin, Out of Nowhere, good friend of the show, longest-term guest on the show, by the way. At 9 o'clock, BRANDI KRUSE joins us for a good half hour with BRANDI. We'll talk with Frank about the national stuff. We'll talk with BRANDI about some of the local stuff. We'll get some of her national insight as well. At 9:30, Chris Gergen will join us remotely from Vegas. And Rick Eckert will join us in studio.
He does that just to make you feel bad, I think.
Who does?
Chris. He calls in from Vegas just to make you salivate.
Yeah. And starting at 9:30, we're going to break down every single race on Tuesday. The national ones, the state ones, we're going to make our picks along the way. And we're going to do something we've never done before. I haven't even cleared this with you schmucks yet.
Oh.
I have a...
Well, then I can't imagine how it will go.
I'm going to make a Word document that's going to have every single thing that we're picking tonight. And if you're a listener and you want to get a copy of that so you can pick along with us, I want you to Facebook Messenger me, and I will drop it in our Facebook Messenger chat. You can download it, fill it out, and send it back to me. And then we will track your results against our results. We'll all see how we're doing. And maybe I'll come up with a prize or something. I don't know what. I'm not.
There's a smart sheet for that.
Well, yeah, it's a lot. I thought about it in a Jeep on the way here. I thought that'd be kind of fun. So it's really a last minute thing. So
merch.
If you maybe we give some merch, maybe we can I'm assistant manager for a company. I might be able to get to donate something. Maybe I'll talk to them. Anyway, we'll come up with something. Okay. But if you want to get a copy of that, send me a private message on Facebook anytime between now and Tuesday. However, we need your results in by Tuesday at 5 to be eligible. Because some of the questions, but by 5, because that's when some of the national results come in, and we are going to be picking national race stuff too.
You want to cut it that close?
Yeah.
I can get it in by 5. I'm not going to have it ready for that night's show, but I can get it. We can tally it afterwards.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So, and then that's going to be the whole show. At some point in the last hour, we'll get football picks in. It'll be really, really quick because God knows we're talking about everything else tonight. And again, we are 48 hours away from what feels to me to have been the longest election cycle known to man.
Well, it's only been going on for 7 years.
That's right. So let's go to the phone lines and joining us from the People's Republic of California.
Gracing us with his presence.
Longtime friend of the show, great human being, wonderful guy, and author of the book, Sarah Palin, Out of Nowhere. It is the one and only Frank Aquila. Hello, Frank. Happy 2 days pre-election day.
Well, good evening.
Hey, listen, you and I talked briefly before the show as we were getting you set up on hold. And I said, we could know in 48 hours who the president is, and you disagreed, and I want you to explain why.
Because Frank is smart.
Why do you think we won't? Because I think we'll know, and I'll tell you why in a second. But why do you think we won't know?
Because the way the Democrats have played the rules now is you have all these mail-in ballots that have to come in, and so even if Trump has a lead on election night, I believe what they're going to do is they're going to say there's a lot of outstanding ballots. It's too many for us to count. So we won't know until all the ballots come in. And so I think this is going to be delayed for a few days. It's just going to be kind of like what they did in 2020, right there, where Trump had a lead of hundreds of thousands of votes in various states. And then at 3 o'clock in the morning, there were vote dumps that took place. I expect the Democrats are going to try to cheat again. And I believe, one of the things that they've done is they've put judges in place in various places. You saw what happened in Virginia, for example, where you try to take illegal voters off the
voter rolls.
roll.
People who identified on their own at the DMV that they were in fact not here legally. Yeah,
exactly. And so if you have judges that are willing to go ahead and say, hey, people are here illegally, can go ahead and vote, which the Democrat Party has denied for all the time. But I always knew that this was part of their plan to get people to be on the voter rolls in order to go ahead and allow them to vote. And now they have denied it for such a long time, and now they aren't denied it anymore. They want illegal aliens to vote. That was the whole purpose of leaving this border wide open, so that you could have people coming in here that will be future Democrat voters. And it's not just that. I believe also, as a poll watcher myself in the past, you have there's a number system that's out there on each voter, and you're able to find those voters that regularly vote all the time, those voters that hardly ever vote, and those that are in the middle. And if the Democrats if they know various voters that don't vote, and then you could go ahead and create them as a voter profile, and you could take their ballot and you can duplicate it, all of a sudden those voters, they have a whole database of voters that may be dead, may have moved, maybe no longer exist, but yet they're able to use that database to recreate these voters to drop their ballots into the system. And I'll give you an example here in California, which basically has ballot harvesting. You have a lot of voters that are on these voter rolls that should have been taken off. My son went off to college about 4 years ago.
And played baseball.
He went off to college.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he went up there. He went out to Oklahoma on a baseball scholarship. And he's graduated college. He is a police officer out in Oklahoma.
Wait a minute, Frank. We've been doing this show with you so long that you've had a kid play high school ball, play college ball, graduate college, and he's now a police officer. God, man, we're old.
Yeah. It's been a while.
Go ahead.
And my other son's in Tennessee. He's actually major in disaster management. He's going to be a firefighter. But here's the thing. So he's been gone during all this time, and yet every voter cycle, even though he registered to vote over in Oklahoma, I keep getting his ballot here in California. And I have gone to the people and I've said, hey, take him off the voter roll. He's not here. And I still keep getting his ballot in the mail. And now finally, for the first time, he did not have his ballot sent to the House. But you want to know what something funny that happened yesterday in the mail? He got jury duty. And so he hasn't even lived here for 4 years, but yet he had jury duty. And so he is still in the system some way, somehow, even though he hasn't lived here for 4 years, and we've already taken him off the voter rolls. He's registered to vote in another state, but yet he's kept getting his ballot here in California. Now, if that's the case with him, you have to know that California's not keeping track of their purging their voter system to go through it. And so literally they can go ahead and know who's there, not there, and they can go ahead and create these ballots for all these people. You got ballot harvesting. And if you've got a corrupt system in place, that's where you get California having a full-blown, that's a threat of democracy right there. The Democrats talk about Trump being a threat to democracy. I think the real threat to democracy is voters that are not able to vote, I should say not able to vote, but their vote doesn't really count because the system's been corrupted. And if it's corrupted, then our democracy is done. They are predetermining who the winner is going to be. Now, Trump, what he's doing right now is he has such a movement that the motto that's kind of going with that movement is too big to rig. And I think that's really what's going to happen. It is going to be too big to rig, but the Democrats are going to try it because they have, in various places, they have Secretary of State who are able to manipulate these numbers, and they're able to try to dump numbers. And I know that, and then you got judges in place that the Democrats have put in place. So I'm very concerned about the future of our democracy, only for the fact that I don't believe our votes count as much anymore. And it's not because there's one person, one vote. You're actually going against the whole system.
Well, Frank, I couldn't agree with you more. And we've been talking about this obviously for years. And here we are 4 years since the last presidential election. And I think we have a fairly good grip now on some of the things that were done that helped. Now, I'm not going to say that Donald Trump didn't lose that last election, because I don't know that we'll ever know, right? If we say he did, I think it's speculation, but I think there's a ton of evidence to support our claims. Now, but having said that, right, we've learned things like, oh, the ladies in Georgia really did pull ballots out from underneath the table in the Georgia Dome, right? We learned that, oh, there really were issues with the United States Postal Service in Pennsylvania. Oh, there really were issues in Detroit, right? There are already issues with Dominion voting systems, right? So these things from 4 years ago are kind of rearing their ugly heads, and they're popping back up. And by the way, even mentioning those, right, we haven't even touched on like you opened with, the fact that there are people that are here illegally that are managing to get ballots. And that's a problem. We have no idea how widespread it is, right? I mean, 8 years ago, we had a president named Barack Obama who went on Univision telling illegal immigrants that if they voted, nobody was going to track them down, right? Like it was no big deal. And I invite people who think I'm BSing or full of it on this one, just simply go look it up if it hasn't been scrubbed from the internet. I think most of us here in studio heard it, though. And it was a despicable comment to make, but it spoke to the bigger picture. And I will say this, Frank, I think that the last couple of years is a lot like, waiting for a baby to be born. I mean, we're either going to get a healthy baby boy or the daughter of Satan. So let me ask you this, Frank. What do you feel that the chances are that we get a good, clean election, and no matter who wins, there's no problems afterwards?
Slim and none. I think Slim got shot and killed yesterday, so I don't think it's going to happen.
So
you made a great point talking about the Dominion machines and all that. How many times do you hear about somebody voting and how they go to vote for, let's say, I just use the example for Trump. They go to vote for Trump, and all of a sudden that vote switches to some other candidate. Yeah.
We've heard that it's switching, and we've also heard that it won't let you vote for him. It won't let you vote unless you hit Harris. So, but I've heard nothing at all about solutions to these, just people taking videos and posting them.
Well, here's my point, though. You never, ever hear, in all the times that I've been hearing about this stuff, and which has been many cycles of voting, you never hear it going the other direction. You never hear of the person voting Democrat, and all of a sudden the vote switched to Republican.
You're correct.
It doesn't ever happen. And, to go with that, there's been a study on all these close elections, and the Democrats win over 90% of the close elections. They always seem to just have enough to squeak by, and over 90% of the. Now, if you take a coin, you flip a coin up in the air, it's going to drop 50% of the time. It's going to be heads, 50% of the time tails.
Yes.
That should be this kind of the same thing that should go on in elections. You Republicans squeak out about 50% of the victories, and Democrats squeak out about 50% of the victories.
Right.
Now, the only way this is going to happen on the Republican side is if that, again, I believe, and this is why I do believe it's going to happen. That's why I feel like the Republicans will have this red wave, per se, somewhat, because I do believe it's going to be too big to rig. I think so many people are in tune. I mean, the national vote now shows Trump is going to have a huge win on that night. Now, does that mean the Democrats are just going to go ahead and say, okay, well, it's over, whatever? No, the people are going to be coming out and vote for Trump. And I really believe that the people are going to be voting for Trump. And it's going to be beyond what the Democrats are able to cheat with. Because I think Trump has such a movement. They do not like the direction of the country. They do not like what Communist Harris and Tim Walz have to bring to this country. They don't like the direction of the country. So there's all this movement that really points out for Donald Trump. And Donald Trump's really gaining a lot with the black vote.
That's right.
With the Hispanic vote.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that there's a lot in place that people, I mean, he's even picking up the unions. The unions are actually voting because, they're saying, hey, we're going to vote for Trump.
And you've got two major newspapers, including the LA Times, that have refused to endorse. And that's pretty clear why, right? They're like, well, we ain't going to endorse her, but we can't do him either.
Right. They're punting. They're just totally punting. So I hate, using the football analogy, you would think, you know what, here we have all the technology in the world compared to the past, and yet we'll come on election night and we will not have a winner because they will not want to announce the winner, and they're going to say all these outstanding ballots. That's the same thing of going to the Super Bowl, and you have a team that's winning right at the end of the game, but you say, well, you know what, we're still going to go to overtime because the other team has a chance to go back on the field and score some extra points to go ahead and win the game in overtime. You don't go to overtime when the clock ticks down to 0 in the fourth quarter. It's the end of the game.
Oh, Frank.
The Democrats have done this on purpose, and the reason they've done this on purpose is they want to find out how far they're down. And you know what? Let's see how many votes we got to put into the ballot box at 3 o'clock in the morning, or how many mail-in ballots we can create in the next 2 to 3 days.
Listen, Frank, you're not telling us anything anybody that lives in Washington State isn't well aware of. We had a race about 16 years ago between Dino Rossi and the current governor at the time, Christine Gregoire. They recounted until they got the results she wanted. I think it was 3 recounts. No joke. And all of a sudden, the third recount, the numbers magically changed. I wonder why. I mean, and you're looking at this stuff, and you're just going, this doesn't pass the smell test, man. Now, I'm going to say this. There's a lot of stuff that's happened in our elections and in our politics the last eight years that does not pass the smell test. But thank God that, generally speaking, conservatives and Republicans want to be the party of law and order, right? Like we have no intention, if Donald Trump gets screwed, to grabbing our smoke grenades and our claw hammers and going out and destroying cop cars and breaking windows and, burning our towns down. We'll hopefully find another way to do it, but it won't be invading the Capitol, okay? In a fake coup or something like that.
Frank, really quick, the other interesting thing to watch is going to be what happens to Congress and what happens with the Senate and the House. Do you have any feelings for what the makeup of the legislative system is going to look like after election on Tuesday?
Well, again, I still think it's going to be where Trump's going to win because it's too big to rig. And usually when you have that, there's coattails that going to go along with what would normally be a landslide. And I feel like that's going to carry over to the Republicans gaining maybe up to 10 House seats, which would be huge. I do believe you're looking at a victory for the Republicans, definitely in West Virginia. Montana, which is a smaller state, so it's a little bit more closely watched. I believe the Republicans, because they have control in the governorship and statewide offices over there in Ohio, I could see the Republicans winning in Ohio as well in the Senate. After that, it gets tricky. I do believe that Katie Hobbs over there in Arizona stole that election when she was Secretary of State, running her own campaign and vote tallies where she beat it from Carrie Lake. Will Carrie Lake have enough to go over the top because of a Trump victory? It's going to be close. I think she possibly can. The same thing's going to apply in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and in Wisconsin, where McCormick is up over there in Pennsylvania by about 1.5% over Casey. Then you have the two other individuals running in Michigan and Wisconsin. What I see possibly happening, and normally if you got 4 close races, you'd say, hey, Republicans should win 2 of them. Or if you say Trump's going to go ahead and have this red wave, he's going to have a landslide type of a victory, especially on the national level, you would say that he would win all 4. That's typically what happened. Will the Republicans win any of those 4 between Arizona, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan? I feel like the Democrats, they have control of the governorships in all 4 of those states. And I don't know about Secretary of State's office, but I believe so. And I just don't trust when the Democrats are in control. You talk about democracy, the Democrats just want to go ahead and have control. There is not going to be any democracy.
Hold on,
if they ever got full control.
Hold that thought, Frank. We're going to break. Hold on. We'll talk to him a little bit on the Facebook side. Stick around. It's Outlaw Radio Network with Frank Aquila. Back after this on Mega Talk. All right, back on with Frank. Frank Aquila, author of the book Sarah Palin, I Don't Know Where. Frank, really quick, how many electoral votes does Trump end up walking away with on election from this election? Any guess?
I think he wins. I think he ends up winning 6 out of the 7 battleground states.
So that would turn this into a romp. I mean, that would turn this into an electoral college romp.
Yeah, I think the real battle is going to be in Pennsylvania. I'm really suspect of Michigan. Michigan would be the one state, and then Wisconsin as another state that, hey, voter fraud could be occurring. As voter fraud's occurred there before. I think Trump's up too much in Arizona. If he's up about 4 to 6%.
Well, I have polling data from about an hour ago from Atlas Polling. I don't know who you follow, but they've been the most historically accurate over the last 2 presidential elections as far as percentage and how close to being correct they were. They've got him up 6 in Arizona.
Yeah, I think because he's up so much, and that's where he could maybe pull along Carrie Lake over that finish line, because I think when it comes down to it, Trump's actually going to do better than what the polling is. A lot of Trump supporters sometimes don't even want to talk to pollsters.
So let me interject here, Frank. I just heard the guys from Atlas, and I think we just have a second yet, so I won't get into it. But I finally heard a reasonable explanation about the secret Trump voter and why they don't give their polling data. I'll talk about that when we come back.
Hold on one second. With Frank Aquila, more after this. You're listening to the Mega Talk Radio Network. This is Outlaw Radio.
I'm Brandi Kruse, host of the Undivided Podcast, and you're listening to Outlaw Radio. Good luck.
Remember, Brandi joins us at 9 tonight, so we'll talk with her in just about a half an hour. And we're still chatting with Frank Aquila, author of the book Sarah Palin, Out of Nowhere. Paul, you were talking about the latest poll numbers.
So the guys from Atlas Polling were doing a radio interview, and I was listening to them. And I finally heard a rational explanation of what these polling guys talk about, Frank, when they talk about that Trump voter that doesn't do the polling data. And Atlas Polling has been the most accurate because, according to them, they know how to talk to these Trump voters. And they've been on. They predicted a Trump loss in the last election by 2 points. They've been dead on the last 2 elections. But they pointed out that the reason why there's that hidden Trump voter that ends up not getting counted in a lot of these polls is because they are legitimately concerned about their name making it onto a list as a Trump supporter. Full stop. So they're like, yeah, I'm not going to do no polling data. I do not want to be known as somebody who is a Trump supporter, because they're concerned about things like, I don't know, the IRS and other things being used against them in the future for whatever reason. So it's a legitimate concern, and there are voters out there that are concerned and don't want their names on any lists.
And quite honestly, I've been polled before, and when I've gotten polled, I literally play like I'm a moderate, and I'm like, hey, I'm still haven't made up my mind about anything, because I don't know who's doing the polling. And so I want to find out, that, hey, I want to know who's doing the polling, what's my polling going toward, so I quite honestly, I don't provide information either when somebody calls me. But let me just say real quick, I was going to mention before the break, what the Democrats, there's going to be two directions we go as a nation, and I'm fearful about it. If the Democrats get control of everything, that means, hey, all these illegals that came in, they'll get control. That their eye is on Texas. And once they get control of Texas, they know they can't be beat.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's the first thing. And then what they want to do is they want to get rid of the Electoral College. They want to have control of the judiciary. That means, we don't have a democracy anymore. Once they have control of everything, get rid of the Electoral College, that is their game plan. The Republicans, on the other hand, if they get control, they want election integrity laws. They want to make sure, hey, maybe a national voter day, that we all go to election, and it's a holiday, that they want to get rid of a lot of this mail-in ballots where fraud can take place. Maybe put serial numbers. We put serial numbers on money. Nobody ever pays attention to the money with the serial numbers. Why we got serial numbers on there? We can scan anything we want out there. We got voter ID ID for any place you got to go, including the Democrat National Convention. But they don't want a voter ID. Especially here in California, Newsom signed a law where Huntington Beach, California, they wanted to have voter ID, and he made it a state law that you cannot ask people for their voter ID. If you don't have voter ID, that only opens the door to cheat, and so that's where it comes down to. We have to get to a point, if the Republicans get control, they have to be able to have some voter integrity laws.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Frank, one last question. We'll wrap this up. We talked with Jesse Youngers running for state representative last week. And one thing I asked him about was just, all the numbers, the turnout numbers are really, really, really low. And Jesse said he believes that benefits Republicans because Democrats are more likely to vote early, or Republicans are more likely to kind of wait until closer to the date when they could actually, show up, drop that ballot in somewhere if they can. Do you think the late push in voting or the lower early numbers on voting hurts Democrats?
Oh, absolutely. The Democrats have always been notorious for getting the early vote out there because they did ballot harvesting to go along with it. So when the Republicans are now playing the game that the Democrats had, getting people to the polls early, that takes away your voter day. The problems. Did the electric grid go out, for example? I mean, how about these ballot machines? And if the people are able to get their vote in early, that works out to their advantage. And Kevin, I do want to make one point to you. Tulsi Gabbard is now a Republican.
Yeah,
I know.
I'm proud of her. I'm proud of her.
Well, I'm toying with that, right, Frank? Because on one hand, I'm glad that she's taking a stand against the party. But on the other hand, Tulsi leaving the Democrat Party is like everybody who's left Washington because we've gotten too blue. If people don't stay and fight, if people don't put up a fit, if people don't continue to work on the inside, it only gets worse. And for every Tulsi that leaves, it lets the party tilt even more left, which just scares the bejeebies out of me.
We talked about this before, that the party has alienated the moderates, and so much so. And you look at somebody like Robert Kennedy Jr. He has left. He said the Democrat Party. I didn't leave the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party left me. So there's a lot of these moderates they don't agree with the Republican platform, all the way on all the points.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? If they see how crazy the Democrat Party has become, how Marxist it's become, you got more and more people saying, especially people that have been diehard, ethnically, the black community has been, been told, hey, you have to vote Democrat, even though the Democrat Party was the one that started the KKK. They've been told to vote Democrat for all these years, and there's people who are waking up and they say, wait a minute, why am I part of this party right now? And because unless you're a Marxist or you don't know your gender, there's no reason to stay in that party anymore.
Frank, we love you. We appreciate it. So we're going to talk with you on election night at about 4:30. We're going to go on the air here live on Outlaw and Mega Talk at 4 o'clock. We're going to fill that first hour kind of previewing stuff. We'll talk with Frank at 4:30, and then at 5, all the numbers come in. Frank, we'll talk with you on Tuesday, man.
You guys have a wonderful night.
Thanks, you too, brother. You take care, man. Be safe after the election results come out, okay?
Yeah, you too. All right, bye now.
Thanks, Frank. There goes Frank Aquila. Again, author of the book Sarah Palin. I don't know, we're a good friend of the show. Listen.
Man, she's 60 now. And she was Sarah Palin. And she rocked the stage last Thursday night. Chris Cuomo at News Nation did a phenomenal 2-hour event. He brought on Geraldo Rivera, Bill O'Reilly, and Stephen A. Smith to help him moderate, and they brought in a whole bunch of guests. It was basically like kind of a modified town hall forum, right? Mm-hmm. And the purpose of it was because they wanted to discuss where we're at in this country, how we've gotten here with regards to our political discourse, and what can be done about it. That woman rocked a short black leather mini skirt and thigh-high boots. I'm like, damn. I hope I could do that. Not the thigh-high boots part, but rock an outfit like that when I'm 60. I was impressed by her chutzpah to go out there dressed like that. That's a woman who knows who she is. She's loud. She's proud. And I think part of the reason she dressed that way, because earlier in the day, Donald Trump had made his statement, the daily statement the news media was attacking him on. Remember, Wednesday it was Donald Trump wants Liz Cheney in front of a firing squad. Right. And so Thursday it was, I'm going to protect women even if they don't like it. Okay, guy. It's probably time to dial back the appearances, but I get what you're saying. It's just kind of one of those.
I think by they, he meant the left. Like, I don't think
you're right. I
whether or not women like it. I think he meant the left, but
I agree with you, but it just didn't come out right. Yeah, it didn't come out right. And he pulled off Wednesday the biggest troll in the history of politics. I don't care who you are. Never before in the history of politics has there been a bigger troll, because Tuesday night, President Biden went on TV and said the only garbage he's aware of are Donald Trump supporters. And Donald Trump showed up for his rally that morning in a garbage truck.
Mm-hmm.
That was the greatest troll ever, man. He earned my vote just for that troll.
Is Palin a Trump supporter?
Yes.
Is she? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and she made it very clear, because then you had Mark Cuban turn around and say that morning on The View that Donald Trump is and never has been surrounded by any intelligent women. So, yeah, that didn't go over so well. Yeah. I mean, I think at that moment, Mark Cuban got fired as being a surrogate for the Harris campaign. Like, dude, like you can't go out there and say no intelligent women are around this guy, because I'm just going to point out that his campaign manager in 2016 was Kellyanne Conway.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying. And he won.
Here's saying. Quick question for you.
Yeah.
The latest numbers I'm seeing have now added 2 more swing states in Iowa and New Hampshire. Now, if Iowa goes, that would be, again, the Des Moines Register came out with a poll that basically says the state's a toss-up.
Well, the interesting thing was that, and it might be, right? Mm-hmm. But I don't know that there are parameters that they put on swing states. So maybe there are some certain parameters that paper found that they could apply.
Isn't a swing state a state that's a toss-up? I mean, isn't that that's what I would, and maybe, maybe
it's a toss-up whose electoral votes will make a big difference.
I don't know, because they count Nevada as a swing state. Nevada doesn't have very many electoral
16,
votes.
12, 12. but there's reasons, and those reasons have to do with as you're adding stuff up. Like, God, it's so hard. That's a deep subject.
Nevada's only 6.
But I can tell
and Iowa is 6. So if Nevada is a toss-up, then Iowa would be 2.
So,
and then New Hampshire's only 4, but that's usually a Democrat stronghold. And some number, not all of them, but some numbers that are coming out are saying that now New Hampshire could be a toss-up. Now that doesn't surprise me because New Hampshire's pretty independent.
Well, but I think it was New Hampshire have 2,
4.
Okay.
Who's
I don't
all
know,
this?
man.
Wait,
Hold on.
But are they a state whose electoral college votes all go to the popular vote winner in that
Yes.
state?
Mhm.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, Maine and Nebraska are the only ones that have any kind of split. that
Right.
way. Phil?
Well, because I know there's a lot of emphasis being put on Omaha, Nebraska's one vote. Yeah, for sure.
So those 2 states then are not all or nothing, or they are all or nothing.
They are.
Okay.
Yeah, every other state but them are all or nothing.
Okay.
In Nebraska, Omaha is its own entity
And is worth 1.
And is worth
Right.
1, and
The
then the
rest
rest
of
of
the
Nebraska
state,
is worth 4.
Yep.
So the rest of the state decides the 4, but the city of Omaha proper decides the
Yeah.
one.
And
Phil?
it's not like, we don't already know that the blue strongholds are the large cities. I
Mhm.
mean, it doesn't take a genius to look at the map and see all the little blue dots surrounded by red everywhere. But that red that surrounds it all really doesn't even equal the population in the cities, right? So
Right. But
Now-
that's the point of the electoral
yeah,
college.
exactly. So let me give you guys the polling data that we have straight from
Well,
Atlas
hold on.
polling.
Do you
this
want to
evening.
wait until we come back because we have like 90 seconds before a break?
Yeah, we can.
Would that give you enough time, or
It's just 7. I mean,
yeah?
I can read it,
Let's
yeah.
let's do it when we come back because
Yeah,
then we're going
that's
to want
fine.
to discuss more. Phil, you had a comment?
Oh, I was just thinking, hey, I'm smart here for electoral college is based on the number of representatives and senators.
Mhm.
So that means any state can have no less than 3, because you always get 1 representative, and you always get 2 senators.
Yep.
But that's also how it does that based on the population, because we redistrict and
Mhm.
redo our.
Do you know that Montana has more than North Dakota and South Dakota?
Checks out.
And Wyoming? I thought Montana would have been less. I thought
There's
Montana.
way more people in Montana than
There's
Wyoming.
some pretty good population centers there.
Have you driven through Wyoming?
I've driven in Wyoming, yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of miles. And a
No,
lot of
but
people.
that's how I felt like Montana was, though. I went on a bus through Montana, east to
Yeah,
west.
but you
and
got Missoula, you got Bozeman. I mean, they're packed comparatively.
Whatever.
I mean,
Cheyenne,
you got Cheyenne,
Wyoming,
but
Cheyenne, Wyoming might be my favorite city in the country.
It's a really cool town,
30
isn't it?
seconds.
All right.
Or village.
All right, let's take a break. When we come back, Lori's going to check and see if we have any comments in chat. And then when we come back on the Facebook side, off the Facebook side, back on the AM, Paul will share some of his latest polling data. So stick around. It's more of the Outlaw Radio Network. K-Dog, Paul, Tom, Lori, Dennis, Phil, the boogeyman known as Trump, and more after this. All right. Do we have comments or questions in
Yes,
chat?
we
Go ahead,
do.
Lori.
So Holly brought up a point. The polls are wrong. They are accounting for gender difference since Kamala. I really
Gender what?
difference
Gender difference. Okay.
since Kamala. So, Holly, if you could expand on that, just so we are interpreting correctly. John Walker, when we were talking about why there is the silent Trump voter, John Walker brought up a point. A small business owner concerned about doxing is a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's not like we haven't seen that in, like in Paulsbo or anything.
yeah, well, and in the 2020 election, that was huge in King County. There was a whole website devoted to people who had given anything.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, and I don't think you were living here yet. No,
No, I
you
wasn't.
weren't. But when COVID happened,
Mhm.
you had restaurants doxing other restaurants
Mhm.
because they wouldn't follow the COVID mandates. I
Yep.
mean, I'm not a huge fan of doxing. Like, I just
No,
feel like it's
me either.
it's a bit of a wuss move. But okay. Any other comments?
Yeah, and then there was comments in the chat about the Island County, Washington Republican observer. I don't know if you knew this person. I actually do know this person, Tracy Abdul. She was removed because she wouldn't put on a mask. And if you look at the news footage, and I forget which station it was, there is an election worker without a mask.
Yeah.
Working.
All right. Come back on AM. Stick around. More of the show. Back after this is Outlaw Radio.
She'd be a good interview. Yeah. She sounded like it.
Your mic's
Listen
on.
to her.
I'm Brandi KRUSE, host of the Undivided Podcast, and you're listening to Outlaw Radio. Good luck.
All right, Outlaw Radio. Brandi KRUSE about 20 minutes away, give or take.
And give a break.
So okay, you had election data. Where are you guys getting all the candy from?
The giant box of evil right outside the door.
In here.
There's
I
a big
brought
box of
18
corn syrup.
pounds of candy.
When tonight?
Yeah, it's
I
right
didn't
there.
even see it.
There's
You
a
walked right
giant
past it.
box of evil.
Are there any
You
dots
can't
in there?
have any.
It's really good that you
What?
didn't.
Any dots?
No, nerds,
I'm telling you,
airheads.
You need any 100-gram bars?
Lori was
No,
such
they're
a
in
terrible.
well, there might be in that.
nice person.
I put the rest in my freezer. I like those.
Paul, share. I'm gonna go steal some candy.
All right. So, as I pointed out before, when I dude, shut the fuck up, man. Unask my area of operations, and don't let the door hit you on the way out. Pull up your pants. Your crack is showing. All right. So, I about 6 months ago, when I wanted to try to understand more and follow the polling, I did a huge dive first. I wanted to find who was statistically the most accurate.
Okay.
And I was able to find these guys. They're a smaller polling organization, but they were literally carried an 83% success rate. So they were literally within 1% on 83% of their polling data in the last two election cycles. So anyway, Atlas Polling on you can look them up. They are Atlas Intel on X. And they do have that. And they just posted the polling data as of this evening. By the way, the reason that they have been the most accurate is because they believe that they have found an acceptable way or an appropriate way to get the hidden Trump voter to come out and poll for them. I can't get into all that and how they do it and all that stuff because I'm not privy to it, but that's part of what they feel has made them successful. They predicted a Biden win, by the way, in 2020. So they were right within 1 point. So yeah, they've been really good. So anyway, their latest polling data as of this evening, we have Arizona, North Carolina, Georgia, Nevada, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin as your swing states. Arizona, they've got Trump +6. North Carolina, Trump +3. Georgia is Trump +2. Nevada is Trump +5. Pennsylvania is Trump +2. Michigan is Trump +2, and Wisconsin is Trump +1. Now, I would personally make the argument that Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin are within the margin of error because you have a 2-point margin of error. So even though they list them as being up, and those are the numbers, I would still say, okay, maybe the needle's swinging to that side, but I wouldn't count that. But realistically, with Arizona, Nevada, Nevada, North Carolina, and Arizona, he needs 4 of those swing states to really be victorious. And right now, it seems, at least by these numbers, he's up in 3 of them. The others are within the margin of error. So, look, at least today on Sunday, it's at least looking positive for the Trump campaign. I'm not going to even go out on a limb and say I think he's going to win this. Only a fool would try to predict this race and who's going to win.
But we're going to pick. We're going to make picks later.
Oh, the hell no! I ain't picking on this race. Listen,
you're not going to pick who you think is going to win.
Well, look, I'll pick if it makes you feel better.
It does.
Okay. I want you to feel good. I'll anyway. Point is that, but people are betting money and stuff on this. I would not throw down any. I would not bet on this race at all.
No.
This could literally go either way. But we do have positive numbers from the Trump perspective right now.
I called Paul earlier this week. So Robinhood, which is an app you get on your phone where you trade stocks.
Yeah.
They are doing basically what is it called? It's not a stock.
Bets?
But it's not a bet, it's not a stock, but it's like
you
that.
can't bet on the presidential.
But you can buy
It's
and
a
trade derivative. Thank you. You can buy and sell derivatives based on who's going to win the election.
Oh, geez.
And after the election is certified, you get paid $1 per derivative. So you literally could buy Donald Trump derivatives today if somebody was selling them for 40 cents a piece. And then when you get closer to the election, you could turn around and sell them for 70 cents a piece or keep them and make it or whatever, right? It just seems weird, man. And you can't bet on it?
No, I do believe I do believe there's some rules and regulations about against voting on or against betting on the vote. Yeah, you know.
Yeah, I don't think Vegas can carry a line.
No,
on that.
I
I'm sure
don't.
there is betting on the elections.
Well, I'm not organized, not.
I'm sure it's organized in a
well,
back room.
yeah, in a
off
back
the
room.
internet.
Let's look it up. I know Robert Barnes always talks about it. Check it out.
So, okay, here's what I've got. So right now, so you cannot bet on it in Vegas, but there are places that have betting market implied odds.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I thought I remembered reading something about
So Trump is 57, according to the numbers. Trump is 57.2% likely to win. Harris is 42.4% likely to win.
I mean, do you really?
Well, what's the line on Mr. Oliver?
It's
if
like
you
a
add
wrestling
those together,
song. No chance. No chance.
I think Oliver is the line.
Well, there's
might be.
0.4% not accounted for between the two of them.
No, okay.
So
There
Oliver
we
fits
go.
into the 0.4 somewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you are going to go to Vegas, if you want to go to Vegas and put down money on Oliver to win the election, they should let you. A fool and his money should be parted from. Okay. Now the odds are probably really high. Like betting $100 on Oliver to win the election, probably is going to pay like 10,000 to 1 or whatever.
It's
So
like I
insane,
think that
yeah.
English Bulldog's going to win this horse race. You know?
Yeah.
Sure he is, huh?
Brilliant. I don't know. I don't know which polls to believe, Paul. Like I believe you. Atlas is more and more reliable
I do,
ones.
and I take them at face value, but I don't know what that means in a race that's so close.
Well, we have two opposing thoughts, right? I mean, Holly mentioned it in chat. It's not accounting for the people that are going to turn out, specifically because Harris is a female who's running. And I think she's right that some people will do that.
I
don't
see how that has anything to do with. Look, the point is correct.
Yeah.
But what does that have to do with polling?
Well, meaning if the polling isn't accounting for it, it could skew the number. And it's also not accounting for the fact that we know that people that are Trump supporters are less likely to answer the polling questions. So if either one of those are true, let alone both of them, it throws the numbers of the polling out and you can't believe any polls.
Listen,
my problem with polling is, as far as I can tell, that's just about the popular vote. The popular vote doesn't really mean anything.
because you're only polling like most polls are in the 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 people.
Right.
That's it. So it's literally just a small snapshot.
Right. So it doesn't mean anything.
But the polls in the swing states do, though. Those are the ones I'm paying attention to.
Kind of.
It's
the
just
popular,
a snapshot.
The popular vote still really doesn't mean anything. I mean, you still have to deal with the Electoral College.
Correct.
So
I don't think you're following though. Well, I don't want to. It sounds like I'm insulting you. And I'm not trying to.
I know you're not.
I think it's just like when I'm reading the polling data. But again, I kind of spent the summer geeking out on this stuff. So there are algorithms and everything else that go into what numbers are chosen so that who can be called. And they will try to, like, they'll say, okay, we got this Democrat and this Republican running against each other. So they determine the algorithm. Like, for example, they'll say a poll of likely voters.
Right. No, I get the statistics on it, but it seems like the statistics that are going to go and try to predict the popular vote, I don't necessarily apply to the statistics that you could look at the Electoral College votes with. I just think we're trying to mix oil and water.
Well, because you're not polling to try to figure out the Electoral College. You're polling trying to figure out, in the state of North Carolina, for example, what do we think the popular vote is going to look like?
But
because
who cares?
We know, because you can extract from that. If you say, well, in North Carolina, Trump's up 5 points in the popular vote, that means he'll get their electoral votes. You're extrapolating that information.
Maybe.
Well, why is it?
Because
maybe?
we've had presidents elected that did not get the popular vote.
Of course.
Yeah.
So
that's why it matters. Well, that's why Trump, for example, has focused on very specific states. For example, he knows he doesn't have to come to Washington State. He ain't winning it.
No.
But guess who else didn't bother coming to Washington State?
Harris.
Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
Because she knows she's winning it.
Yeah, she's got the whole West Coast.
Right. So you have things like they refer to them affectionately as the blue wall or the red wall. For example, they call Texas a red wall.
That's turning purple.
And well, tell you in 2 days. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that even Ted Cruz is in a tight race down there. So I tend to agree with what you're saying. I think it's turning purple. How much of that is as a result of illegal immigrants choosing to vote? I don't know the answer to that.
I think it's just for the most part, people who live in liberal areas are moving to more tax favorable places, and
I think there's truth to that.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think it's more of that than anything else.
In Washington State, we know personally here with regards to this show, we know a half a dozen people at least that are close to us that have moved out of state because of the far left policies the state has implemented. And that didn't have anything to do with taxes.
They don't have any ports in Idaho.
That had to do specifically with just overall policies, right? So do you think that maybe it has to do more with the overall policies than taxes, or are you feeling pretty confident that it's the taxes?
Taxes are an easy thing to point at and quantify.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, but it's policy and yes, all the above.
Okay.
It's just easy to point at taxes and say, well, the West Coast is expensive.
Yeah.
All three states are very tax heavy.
For the sake of a really cool promo, I want you to repeat after me.
Oh boy,
Paul, you are always right.
All right, so
Paul, you were always right.
Oh, shut up, Kevin. I had to talk over the top of you. All right.
I really believe that whoever wins Pennsylvania wins this election.
Well, why do you believe that, Kevin?
Because I feel like Pennsylvania is from all we've seen with the polls, right? All the polls are showing they're neck and neck. I can completely see Harris keeping the blue wall up north. I can completely see Trump keeping the red wall down south and in the west. And I think it's going to come down to Pennsylvania. I think whoever takes Pennsylvania.
You've been listening to some CNN lately? Because that's their point.
Was that there? I don't know. I don't watch CNN. Yeah. I can't do it. No, but I do believe it. I believe it'll be Pennsylvania.
But if you listen to MSNBC, they'll talk to you about how Harris is up by 4 nationwide.
Yeah, but again, the nationwide numbers, like Tom said, are irrelevant.
Not only are they irrelevant, they don't cite the polling data.
Yeah.
They just tell you in the most recent poll MSNBC has, Harris is up by 4.
Democrats need to stop being stupid, though.
Yeah.
Because here's what happened, and this is what happened in 2016. Democrats went out and said, we got this thing in the bag. All the numbers show Hillary Clinton's going to win. Hillary's got this. And some Democrats said, I'm not going to go vote. I don't need to. This sucker's in the bag. And so they didn't vote. And then Trump won. Every time you portray yourself as the winner, like that you're going to have this thing, you motivate your people to vote less. And when people feel like their person isn't going to win it, it motivates them to vote more.
I don't recall. Did Trump win in 2016 with or without the popular vote?
He lost the popular vote.
You lost the popular vote.
Hillary won the popular vote by almost 2%.
Okay. Yeah.
But Trump took the right states.
Right.
Exactly. Okay. Exactly. So. But I will tell you, if you are a poll reader and researcher, at this point in time, the polling data has him up, and he's up in the right states. And he has the popular vote in the polling data.
I love polls as long as they're my co-host. Outlaw Radio.
Oh, that's so kind of
Brandi
you.
Kruse is next. After the break. Back after this. Outlaw Radio. Going to bring our buddy Rick Eckert in here.
Isn't it amazing that we live in a state where our governor is so concerned about our well-being, about our welfare, that he has made it a point to activate the National Guard to protect us in the event of an election issue?
I was going to bring that up because someone sent me, I believe it was my aunt. She sent me a link about that story, and I went and tried to open the story, and I could not.
You couldn't answer. Well,
no, I was more paywall stuff.
Listen, I think it's smart of him because let's be honest, it's not like he's got conservatives or Republicans to be concerned about. Even if Trump loses, look, he's more likely to have another summer of love in the wintertime in Seattle than anything else.
Yeah.
And the last time he called out the National Guard to deal with the Summer of Love, those dudes showed up with basically the clothes on their back and boots. They didn't even have batons to twirl around and look cool, you know? So I don't know. We'll see what happens. And plenty of those guys took bottles upside their head. Because if I recall correctly, they weren't even wearing riot gear. The cops were, but the National Guardsmen weren't. So I don't know. We'll see. I seriously, I'm like, it's such a stunt. If you're the governor of the state of Washington, I'm going to put the National Guard on alert.
Yeah. I mean,
really?
What's he worried about?
You and me, I guess.
I mean,
well,
what
I don't
the
know.
conservatives are going to do.
Exactly.
Stay home and keep reloading.
Yeah.
Hold on.
With a reloading machine, folks, that's all he's talking about. We make our own bullets. That's all he's talking about.
I'm not opposed to him activating. I actually think it's a good idea for him to activate them and have them ready to go.
What?
Here's why. Because if Trump loses, it will be a circle jerk. Okay. If Trump loses, every lefty in the world is going to come out to the parks and they're all going to hug each other and love each other and roast marshmallows in the park. But if Trump wins, Portland, Tacoma, Seattle, you're going to see violence in the streets, and it's better that he be a little proactive.
Hold on.
I don't like the guy, but it's better that he's proactive.
No, you forgot a bunch of states.
Listen up.
Well, we're just talking about
Kevin.
West Coast.
Kevin.
Yes.
Oh, he's not activating the National Guard because he thinks anybody on the left is going to do anything. Okay, it's a political stunt to make him look like he's prepared for Trump to lose. And then the right goes crazy, and suddenly January 6th is parading, a governor of the state of Washington's front door through the streets. He's trying to imply that conservatives and Republicans are a danger. It's something we've heard this entire campaign.
Well,
maybe he's preparing for the insurrection.
Insurrection. Maybe. Listen.
The erection, the Mount St. Helens.
Here's the deal.
Maybe he learned from Pelosi what not to do. So he's like,
I've said this before. The Republicans do not do what the Democrats do. Okay. The Democrats lose. The Democrats have won a lot in this state. Sorry, Paul.
Yeah.
Democrats.
Thanks a lot.
Democrats lose, and they light things on fire and protest and take to the streets the night of. Republicans lose, and they sit on it and they ponder it and they figure out what a non-knee-jerk reaction is going to be. That's what January 6th was all about.
Yeah.
It was a calculated, planned-out response. Now, you can disagree with the response all you want to, but it was not a knee-jerk response. It's not what Republicans do. That is what Democrats do. Because we saw that in Portland and St. Louis and Detroit and Chicago. I mean, it is part and parcel to the outrage that liberals feel when they lose. Now, again, you can say that they're correct to do it. That's a whole different conversation. But let's not confuse how the two sides react to things. Republicans are forward planning. Liberals are emotional and responsive. And that's a fact. And so if there's anything the National Guard's got to be called out for on election night, it ain't going to be the right. At least not on election night. Not that it couldn't be later.
At least not on election night. Yeah.
Not on election night.
There you go.
All right, we're gonna come back on the AM side. When we do, BRANDI KRUSE is on cue and ready to join us on Outlaw, so we'll bring her in just a moment.
I'll tell you what, man, I got to thank her. She made a phenomenal documentary that was wonderful, and I will recommend to anybody who is within earshot to go watch it.
Okay. We can ask her about that when we get around.
Oh, for sure, man. Yeah, she did a great job on it. Operation Indoctrination.
BRANDI KRUSE. She's got her hands on a lot of stuff. She's busy. She's out,
and good for her on it too.
She's out front. When does she sleep? That's the question. Not at 9 o'clock on a Sunday, because she's going to join us next. It's Outlaw Radio. Stick around. Back after this on Megaton.
Greed, deception, abuse of power, that's no plan. I'm the enemy. Because I like to think. I like to read. I'm into freedom of speech and freedom of choice. I'm the kind of guy who just sit in a greasy spoon and wonder, gee, should I have the T-bone steak or the jumbo rack of barbecue ribs with the side order of gravy fries? I want high cholesterol. I want to eat bacon and butter and buckets of cheese, okay? I want to smoke a Cuban cigar the size of Cincinnati in a non-smoking section. I want to run through the streets naked with green jello all over my body reading Playboy magazine. Why? Because I suddenly might feel the need to, okay, pal? I've seen the future. You know what it is? It's a 47-year-old virgin sitting around in his beige pajamas, drinking a banana broccoli shake, singing, I'm an Oscar Mayer week.
You're listening to the Outlaw Radio Network. OutlawRadioNetwork.com.
All right, Outlaw Radio, hour number 2 underway. We are, again, 48 hours from election results pouring in, and we're going to continue to talk about that. Rick Eckert,
In theory.
our good friend from North Kitsap, joins us on the show. Hello, Rick.
Hello.
Good to see you, buddy. Rick's going to be with us for the rest of the show tonight. Yep. And a friend of Rick's, I don't know if she even knows us anymore, but she knows Rick. Joining us from somewhere on the other side of the pond is the one and only BRANDI KRUSE, host of the Undivided podcast, and I still think a good friend of the show. Hello, BRANDI.
Of course, I'm a good friend of the show. What is this?
How are you?
I don't come on for a month, and all of a sudden we question these things.
No, I'm just giving you a hard time. It's good to see you. Paul loves your documentary.
Oh yeah, what a great job you did on that.
I appreciate that. Yeah, we'll be releasing after the election. We're working on some follow-ups, some different parts to it. But Operation Indoctrination, we focused specifically on the Olympia School District, and as the name suggests, their efforts to indoctrinate kids. And one of the things about it, and you can watch it for free across any of our platforms. It's easy to find. One of the things is that it's like told through the actual stories of students. So you've got like 2 6th graders and 2 kids who just graduated. So it's less about my opinion on things and more about these kids. And that was very intentional because, like, in order for Democrats or the superintendent of public instruction or the Olympia School District to discount our documentary, they'd have to basically say those kids are lying. And if you listen to the kids, they are very you feel terrible for them, but they're very believable.
For sure. And let me tell you one more thing. And I know it sounds like a BRANDI KRUSE love fest, but guys, I just need to take a second for this.
Brandy's like, yes, please, more love fest.
You just shh, quiet, Kevin. My kids, I live out on the Key Peninsula. Yeah. I bet she already knows where I'm going with this. And I just want to tell you, thank you. And you should have seen our local message boards after you, BRANDI, were outed by the stranger. You're such a horrible person. Listen, thank you for what you did. God knows it couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. Well, I'll leave it at that. And so just thank you very much.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. I mean, we get a lot of tips about education issues because we've done so many education related stories. And of course, there was this teacher in the Peninsula High School who was moonlighting as a drag king named, can I say it?
Mm-hmm.
Named Jack King Goff, the orgasmic drag king. And, had posted things like lock up your daughters. And, I did what I thought was a pretty simple, straightforward story. Like, here's a teacher caught posting this stuff, probably inappropriate. And it was really interesting to watch, actually, even mainstream outlets, the Tacoma News Tribune, Cairo 7 News, and then The Stranger do these stories that basically said I cyberbullied a teacher out of his job. And it's like, no, I posted what the teacher posted and they suffered consequences of their own behavior and they should take personal responsibility.
Yeah, it's amazing how a little story like that, kind of mirrors what's happening in national politics. It's absolutely amazing. You're such a terrible person.
I think it's great that his name was Jack King Doff because that was actually what Tom went as for Halloween. Anyway, listen, BRANDI, what are you feeling?
You were stretching for that one.
Like that? I listen. I'm prepped for this show tonight. BRANDI's here. I'm on my A game. BRANDI, what are you feeling as we're 48 hours away from the results coming in on the state specifically, but just anything that is strong to you? What are you kind of envisioning for Tuesday?
I mean, I have a lot of anxiety, and I was just on a Q&A with subscribers, a pre-election Q&A answering their questions, and I think there's a lot of anxiety going around. This was the first time in my career, for obvious reasons, that I've actually gotten involved in political campaigns. Obviously, when I was on the news, that wasn't something that I was going to do. But, a year ago is the first time I even endorsed a political candidate. This is the first time I've donated to political campaigns. It's the first time I've volunteered or taken a position in favor or against candidates on my show. And that's because I saw and I see how much is at stake. We're really at a point of no return. The Democrats are dangerously close to supermajorities. I don't think I can understate how bad that would be for our state if they can push through any policy without fear of a veto or anything like that. So I have a lot of anxiety. I have been through elections, particularly, when I lived in Seattle and when I was a reporter there, where I felt like there was momentum, to restore a little bit of common sense and sanity. And then I've been incredibly disappointed. So I've sort of steeled myself, I think, to expect the worst and then just take any sort of wins if they come. And that's the way I guess I protect my mental health, is to go into it just assuming that the results are going to be awful. And then if there's a few wins, I'm under no illusions about how challenging it's going to be for Dave Reichert to win. I have increasingly become increasingly concerned about the initiatives, given the lies being spewed about them, the confusing way they're written on the ballot. But, there's a few races that I think if can be pulled off, they'll have a significant impact on the state. For instance, David Olson, we just talked about education. David Olson running for OSPI, who I think is the only option. I don't even see Chris Rakedahl as an option. I think David Olson could have a profound impact on the state, and it would peeve the Washington Education Association off, which would be worth it. Yeah.
Do you think we come out of Tuesday with Democrats with a supermajority?
No, definitely not in the House. That would be crazy. In the Senate, it's very close. I don't think so. I'm not gonna, I don't know, take my prediction for what it's worth, but they have to pick up 4 net seats. I don't see them doing it. Close though. Close.
I just want to make you feel better with one thing. Kevin did his ballot on air and voted for Michelle Caldier.
Oh, good.
We can all sleep peacefully.
No, I did not vote for Michelle Caldier. I voted for Tiffany. Thank you very much. Whose last name I can't remember, but she's not Michelle Caldier, so I didn't vote for her.
I was trying.
Oh God,
you guys you were going to, but then you changed it later.
I changed it later. Yeah, I changed my mind. Listen, I keep going back. Listen, I want to bounce an idea I have, Brandy, and you're gonna hate this idea on its face. Paul hates it, but I want you to tell me what you think.
Because you're a moron.
Is this Emily Randall?
Yeah.
I did more research.
Yeah. So Emily Randall is running for U.S. congressional district. She's trying to take the seat that Derek Kilmer's got. That seat's been a Democrat hot seat since the 60s. Like, we haven't had a Republican in that seat in forever, ever, right? Yeah. So we're going to have a Democrat in there no matter what. Doesn't it benefit us to let Emily have that seat so we can get a Republican in that Senate seat? Because that it'll be hard to oust her, but easier to oust somebody else that's not an incumbent with her name recognition.
I don't know. I don't know if that's much of a trade-off. I mean, sending Emily Randall to Congress is insane. You guys do realize that in the 6th, right?
Yeah, one of us realizes it. Yeah,
multiple of us have realized that. I've been trying to tell Kevin that voting is checkers, not chess. That his theory is too complex.
All right. So okay, first I have to do the disclaimer to make the lawyers happy. I am here on behalf of them tonight in my personal capacity. I do not speak for the Poulsbo City Council. I'm not endorsed by the Poulsbo City Council to speak tonight. Okay.
Very good.
Also,
but if they were smart, they would have endorsed you to speak.
Also,
go ahead.
This is a safe space. Kevin, we all love you.
No, it's not.
Have you scheduled your colonoscopy yet?
Hold on. I'm not going to waste my time with Brandy talking about my colonoscopy.
We're going to do that before we leave.
But I did mail in a sample, and I got the results back. And
you got a schedule. Anyway.
Okay.
Brandy's
like, what the hell did I sign up for?
Hey.
I do agree with Kevin's logic. And to be fair, I actually asked Brandy this question through Patreon about 4 days before Kevin said it on the air.
Oh, wow.
So Kevin did not come to this conclusion totally independently in a vacuum.
A2,
I
Rick.
thought I had the same thought.
A2. Thank you.
So
yeah,
I don't. Kevin.
I would rather have her in neither of them. It boggles my mind that people in the 6th would send Emily Randall to Congress. I mean, she will instantly become one of the furthest left members of Congress in our state, and she will compete with Pramila Jayapal to out progressive, even the chair of the House Progressive Caucus. And this is someone who, to me, she has really tried to moderate herself when it suits her politically. But this is someone who just earlier this year, as people were losing power and as she was voting with her Democratic colleagues to ban natural gas or to phase out natural gas, she literally posted a picture of herself warming her toes next to her neighbor's natural gas fireplace. Like, that's the epitome of a bad politician. That's the epitome of someone who shouldn't be in public service, who doesn't even recognize, doesn't have the ability to recognize, hey, this looks bad. Like, even if I'm doing this, I shouldn't take a picture of it and post it as I'm trying to take away people's ability to use natural gas in their home. So she's a fringe leftist. And I think what boggles me, the 6th congressional district, you guys really confused the heck out of me. This is a blue collar district. This is an area of our state. It's not defined by this, but that has had some industries that have not survived and done well, that has a lot of poverty in the coastal areas, that is not well served by Democratic policies and has not been well served by Democratic members of Congress. And so it just, I guess it just confuses me. It's a baffling district to me because I look at those people as blue collar, like hardworking, family values Washingtonians. And so the fact that they'd send Emily Randall to Congress, just those things don't compute to me. Maybe you guys have a different view, or you can help me understand what am I missing.
I'm glad that you think it's very diverse, Rick.
North to south, it's very diverse.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like Gig Harbor, very blue, Bainbridge Island, bluest of blue, and then the north end of the Kitsap Peninsula, right, Kingston area, kind of blue. But then almost the entire, like Mason County is the reddest of red. Yeah. It's just sparsely populated.
The south end of Kitsap's
pretty red. Yeah.
Purpley red.
Well, to her point, it doesn't make any sense.
But all the main population centers are blue, though.
Well, Bremerton is about 50-50.
Yeah, Bainbridge is heavy blue.
90-10.
Yeah.
Well, and even the vote, if Randall is elected, the vote to replace her in the Senate, that crosses Kitsap and Pierce counties.
Mm-hmm.
So both of those county commissioners, those councils have to make that decision, which is 3 on one side, 7 on the other. I've done the research. I can't figure out how that's going to work. I don't know if each commission gets a vote, each commissioner gets a vote. Like, it's very confusing.
Yeah,
like I've been looking, trying to figure this out ever since Kevin brought it up. And
get your popcorn.
Yeah.
It's a great idea. Listen, I'm a genius ahead of my time. You guys are going to thank me later. Brandy, when you look at the initiatives, do you think any of them pass?
I think the one that has the greatest chance of passing is the initiative to allow people to keep natural gas. If not for any other reason, it was, the most recent one to be out there having signatures collected. So I think it's fresher in people's minds, but also the way it's worded on the ballot is the least confusing. I mean, these other initiatives, it was literally like, vote for this or babies and kittens will vote against this or babies and kittens will die. It was because Democrats, what they did in anticipation of these initiatives, I mean, they did a lot of shady stuff. When they talk about Donald Trump being a threat to democracy, I could list 25 things that Democrats have done in our state over the last 18 months that have been direct threats to our democracy and undermining our democratic process. But nobody pays attention to those things. Threatening lawful signature gatherers, setting up tip lines to harass lawful signature gatherers, using lawfare to undermine the will of 1.6 million voters who signed the initiatives. And then they passed this law, again, in anticipation of these initiatives to repeal massive sources of revenue. And they said, well, if these go to the ballot, then we have to include a few lines on the damage it would do to the state of Washington from a fiscal perspective if they passed. So you have these initiatives that are already written in a really confusing way. And then it says, if this passes, it'll take away money from education and transportation or whatever it is. It doesn't have a line on there that says, if this passes, it'll save the average family $620 a year. If this passes, it will lower the cost of gasoline by, 30 cents a gallon. If this passes, it will save you X amount per paycheck when you don't have to pay into the long-term care program. So it's completely unfair. It is a way that Democrats, using their majority in the House and Senate, manipulated the initiative process.
Yes.
And I think that it has made it in the millions of dollars. I think it's 26 million-ish so far that has been spent across all the initiatives to defeat them on the airwaves. That's tough. That's really tough to push back against.
Well, and unless it's somebody like us or like you, Brandy, that understands this stuff. If you're the layman and you're sitting there and you see these commercials come up, I've really been trying to pay attention to them, encouraging people to vote no. And the reasons that they're giving, they're just dumb.
They're just lies.
They're just like ridiculous stuff. And I can't tell you how many phone calls I have gotten from friends and family members saying, I don't understand these.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how should I vote on these? Yep. They just don't understand it. It's that poorly written.
Well, and then when people don't understand something, they're more likely to vote no. In that sense, right? Like, why would I pass something if I don't fully understand it? So there's that element, and there's going to be that segment that's a default vote to no. So I again, if you'd asked me a month ago or a month and a half ago, I would have thought all 4 of these bad boys are going to pass because the policies in them are, the idea of repealing these policies is popular. We saw that with the number of people who signed on to the initiatives. Again, it was like 1.6 million or maybe even 1.8. I could be a little off. million unique voters across the political spectrum. But that's because the way the initiatives were worded when they went out and gathered signatures was more honest. I mean, it was more about, stop the hidden gas tax, which is I-2117. But there's nothing about in the ballot language about gas. It talks about carbon markets and, it'll, hurt climate efforts if you vote yes. And it's like, well, no, it's not going to hurt climate efforts. I mean, the Climate Commitment Act is, and it's not that I don't care about the environment. It's a money grab. It's the climate industrial complex. There was this cartoon put out by Future 42 that sums it up perfectly. It has Governor Jay Inslee, one of his former staffers, and then former Senator Reuven Carlisle. And it basically shows how, like Reuven Carlisle, for instance, he was one of the main drivers of the CCA and passing it into law. Then he immediately left the state Senate and he started a climate company that's now benefiting immensely from the existence of the Climate Commitment Act. So he's padding his pockets through a climate policy that he helped to pass and that he's now working actively to keep. There's a reason for that. Governor Jay Inslee, he's going to leave office in 2 months? I guarantee you he will have a 7-figure job in the climate sector that is being directly funded by the climate policies that he pursued over the last 12 years. Mark my words.
You know what? I'm gonna take that little spot out and I'm gonna make it a promo. That'll be very interesting to see if that comes true. I think she's on to something. Yeah.
Well, and that's right after he moves to Idaho. It's already been rumored that he's going to Idaho because why would he stay here when he's already, screwed up the tax base so bad and made it so expensive to stay here? Why wouldn't he leave?
I think I heard Brandi. I think Brandi's the one that I heard say that initially.
I don't know if we saw the rumors. I don't know if it's been confirmed and stuff that he's actually moving there. I saw the rumors that he bought land or something. You should be forced if you want to get your pension. If you are elected governor and serve as governor and you get a government pension, you should be forced to live in Washington State if you want to continue to collect that pension
for the rest of your life. With the aftermath of your poor decisions.
Right. You should be forced to live with the policies that everybody else has to live with.
Brandi, you're coming across as very pessimistic on the results from Tuesday. So
it's nice of you.
Let me ask you a question. What is your best case scenario? I mean, obviously, in a dream world, Trump wins, Reichert wins, Reichdahl's out. Republicans gain seats in the Senate and the House. Those would all be wonderful things. But what is your realistic best case scenario come Tuesday?
Okay, realistic best case scenario. 2 of the initiatives pass. Jamie Hoyer Butler is the Commissioner of Public Lands. David Olson is the head of public schools. Dave Larson gets elected to the state Supreme Court. And Republicans avoid a Democratic supermajority in the Senate.
So it's not even reasonable to think that Reichert has a shot at this point. It just feels like it's out of grasp.
I think look, and I feel, and I've told Dave this, I feel the same way about his race. I felt the day that I endorsed him, the day that he entered the race, I felt like it was going to be incredibly difficult. But as I told him, if you can't do it, it can't be done. And I believe that. I believe that if he can't do it, Republicans cannot win the governor's race in at least the next 20 years. They have no bench. There is no one waiting in the wings. Dave Reichert has the most name recognition. He has the only history of winning in King County. There has been, and I'll give depending on the results, and I'm not saying he can't win. I mean, I think the polls have been skewed. I don't think he's going to lose by what the polls say he's going to lose by. But again, I go back to this entire machine that has worked against him. The millions of dollars Bob Ferguson has spent not only lying about Dave Reichert, but completely manipulating his own record. I mean, Bob Ferguson shed an exoskeleton and now he's a moderate who cares about public safety. Give me a break. He's a change agent. For the love of God, I've never seen a more dishonest political campaign than I have from Bob Ferguson over the last 15 years covering politics in the state. And it's not even close. I think he's the most dangerous politician in the state of Washington. I echo the sentiments of my late friend Dory Monson on that. I don't think people even appreciate the extent to which his desire for power and influence has corrupted him. And so, I think that it would be hard for anyone to win against what has been thrown at Dave Reichert. And on top of that, I think Dave has struggled with feeling, how do I put this? I think Dave has struggled with feeling comfortable and confident in who he is. Dave represented a purple district in Congress. he is a moderate. The rhino phrase, whatever, call him a rhino. He represented a district that where people were very moderate inherently. I mean, that's just what the district was like. And so that's how he represented them in Congress. That's kind of been how he always is. He's a King County Republican. But I think that he got caught between trying to keep one foot in the base and please the Trump crowd, the semi-bird crowd, and then trying to push back against these assertions that he was right-wing, a Trump lover. So it's almost like he felt as if he needed to be two different people on the campaign trail. And in today's environment, where everything you say is quoted in the news, that just doesn't play well. Because you're here saying one thing, you're there saying the other. And I understand what was probably going on, which is like, oh my God, he says something even remotely like Donald Trump-esque, and now it's in a political ad for Bob Ferguson. So now he goes on Cairo Radio and he says, well, Trump is an idiot. And then the Republicans are mad at him and they're not voting for him. So I really firmly believe that if you're going to run for something in this state, you have to just be who you are. Political consultants are morons. I've realized in the last year, they are morons. They are nothing but money sucks. There are very few political consultants in this state who are worth jack. I really think that you have to enter a race running as who you are, unapologetically. And I told Dave this, if you can't get elected as Dave Reichert, you don't deserve to be elected. If you can't get elected by being the person who you are, which is a great person, by the way, which is a person of strong moral character, which is a person who has served this state for 30 years, if that's not enough to get elected, then you don't deserve to get elected, and that's fine. So I think, let's wait and see what happens on Tuesday, but I hope he can make it a lot personally invested in that, but I'm also realistic.
Yeah. Brandi, we're gonna go to break on the AM side, and then we'll wrap up with you on the Facebook side. So I know we only have you till 9:30, so I still got 3 minutes. We're gonna milk every minute we can. So stay right there. More with Brandi Kruse after this on the Facebook side. AM Chris Gergen will join us right after the break as well. So it's a full show.
Not a moron.
He's not a moron. We'll bring him on with you because you were talking about consultants. Hold on, Outlaw Radio.
Oh Lord.
All right, I wasn't going to do this, but you said he's not a moron, so I'm going to bring Chris Gergen on with us as well as Chris joins us.
Thank you, Brandi. I appreciate that.
No, Chris, I guarantee he agrees with me. Chris, are most political consultants morons?
Without a doubt.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
And I've said as much on this show that the majority, not all, there's a couple that are good, but the majority of political consultants in Washington State are terrible.
Brandi, we love you. We appreciate you coming on and joining us. Let's plan something again relatively soon, just to kind of talk about the fallout and the aftermath of Tuesday. Yeah. And thanks for all you do, and thanks for just being you, and thanks for liking me more than you like Paul. I appreciate
Keep pumping out those documentaries.
I did tell you that, Paul. I did tell him that. I hate you, Paul. I'm just kidding.
Wow.
I did also hear the circle jerk reference right when I logged in. One of you said circle jerk, and you know that last time I was on, we were talking about me saying that.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
So
I have a thick skin. We're good.
Brandi said it. Brandi, we love you. Thank you. Let's talk soon.
All right. We'll
there goes Brandi Kruse. You can check out the Undivided Podcast every Monday where you find your podcasts. Go to all the podcast places. Or Brandi, what's the website?
Undividedpod.com.
Undividedpod.com. And you need to come back in studio sometime too when you can. I know that Black Ring Spirits has some more presents for you.
Great.
If you come in studio, you have to bring Nicole.
Well, yeah, of course I'd bring Nicole. I don't go anywhere without Nicole these days.
There you go.
Oh, that'd be a good conversation.
Kevin needs to meet Nicole.
Oh, for God's sakes.
Oh, God. Okay.
We're trying to play matchmaker, for God's sake.
Kevin needs to meet anybody.
Stop. All right. Brandi, we love you. We'll talk to you soon. Coming up around the corner back on AM with Chris Gergen with Dark Horse Political. We're back after this on Outlaw.
Thanks, J. Andrew Kennedy.
Remember?
Appreciate you.
Brandi likes me more than Paul. She said it.
We on Facebook. Oh.
I'm Brandi Kruse, host of the Undivided Podcast, and you're listening to Outlaw Radio. Good luck.
Again, thanks to my mic's not on. Now my mic is on. God bless it. Again, thanks to Brandi Kruse for joining us. Sorry.
Sorry, there's a very distracting situation out here.
Brandy says, I don't hate you, Paul. Brandy did put that in chat, by the way, so Paul can feel better about himself. But thanks to Brandy for coming on. I love having her on. I wish we weren't on opposite sides of a pond.
What she means in between the lines, though, is hate doesn't describe the feeling.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
Hate is not what Brandy said is, I don't hate you, Paul. And what she meant in parentheses was, because hate is not an adequate enough word to describe how I feel about Paul. She'll
you need to dial down your jealousy a little bit, friend.
My jealousy?
Yes.
All right.
Yes. One of these days you'll get married too.
Do you know who I'm jealous of? Do you know who I'm jealous
What's
of?
that? Who you
Chris Gergen, who joins us via the Black Ring Spirits video chat. Chris is joining us from Vegas, my favorite city on the planet. He is a political consultant who doesn't suck. Per BRANDI KRUSE, and he's active in a lot of races going on in the state of Washington, including one right here in the 26th district with Jesse Young's race. And Chris, welcome to the show, man. Good to see you again. How are you?
I'm outstanding, man. How are you guys?
Doing good. We're doing good. It's good to see you. Throughout the show tonight, I think I'm going to keep you on for like an hour and a half.
That's fine.
We got Rick in studio for an hour and a half. We're gonna pick all these big races later. We're gonna break it down like football picks. But before I do that, I just want to give you and I an opportunity to kind of say what you see today, 48 hours out of the results.
In Washington State or nationally?
Let's start nationally and then we'll drill it down.
Ooh, nationally, it's interesting. There was this outlier poll that came out in Iowa. I don't know. Did you guys see that?
Yeah, we talked about it earlier.
Saying that Iowa was competitive. That's all baloney. It gives the Dems put that out in the media to give them something to talk about and to create perception and narrative and distract from the fact that Harris is going to get smoked nationally, and she is running a very real risk for the first time since 2004 of the Democrats losing the popular vote. If the Democrats lose the popular vote, it's almost worse than them losing the presidency, because now that takes away the narrative that we need to get rid of the Electoral College and we need to just go to popular vote. So they really don't want to lose the popular vote. I think that's very possible given the turnout numbers that we're seeing nationally for Democrats. Democrats traditionally don't vote late. They vote early, and they vote often. Dead people vote, whole 9 yards. People who don't live in the state vote. Everybody votes for the Dem. But nationally, we're seeing that the too big to rig mantra that Trump has run on really for the past 6-8 months, in most states, not all states, Washington is not among these states, but in most states, turnout has been fantastic. I know here in Nevada, turnout is really, really strong, and the Republicans are they're actually ahead in turnout going into Election Day, which is very, very rare. I don't think it's happened in 20 plus years. And so, there's an excited base in a lot of places that need to be excited, i.e. the swing states. And then places where Trump really didn't focus, there's not a lot of excitement, but those are blue areas. He was very strategic. He ran a very good race this cycle. I think Republicans, and we'll talk more about this later, I think Republicans gain control of the Senate and gain control of Congress, or pad their lead in Congress. And so I think it's going to be a good day for Republicans nationally. And I do believe that Trump is going to win, and we'll go over what those numbers are later, what my picks are on that. But
but you think that they get the trifecta then? You think they've got control of both sides of the House and the White House?
Yeah, there hasn't been a ticket for the Democrats that has been this bad since Dukakis Benson back in '88.
God, I forgot about Lloyd Benson. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Lloyd Benson. Yeah.
Everybody forgot about Lloyd Benson.
Benson forgot about Lloyd Benson.
And yeah.
So listen, if things go too badly here in the state of Washington, I'm going to take you up on that offer to use your guest room.
That's fine. Knock yourself out, man.
The optimism that you have for conservatives and Republicans on the national level, is that echoed in the state of Washington?
It is not. It is not, unfortunately. And I've all day I've been prepping for this show because I knew that we were going to be on for quite a while tonight, and so I wanted to have data to back up, where I sit on things. and the turnout numbers overall are exceptionally low, and which is strange because in 2020 they were exceptionally high. I think it was almost an 85%. I think it turned out it was 84.7% turnout rate in 2020, and then now just 4 years later, it's. I mean, if we get to 69, 70, it'll be a good day. And there's only a couple more days to count ballots. Of course, you guys count ballots for 3 weeks after the election there in Washington State, but
we're slow on purpose.
Yeah, apparently. And well, I don't know if it's on purpose or just I won't even go there. Anyway, so it's one of those things where I think that we inch up towards 70 at the end of the day once it all gets done. And it just makes, I agreed with, I listened to what Brandi was saying, and I agree with Brandi on just about everything that she said, kind of her outlook. And so we'll go over, a lot of that over the next, hour and a half on where I sit on things. But the macro, guys, it doesn't look good for Republicans. I think a lot of that has to do with the WSRP and the lack of leadership. And I don't think it, I know it. And there's just not besides energy is kind of an intangible, right? There's just no organization. Right. There's no working together. There's a lot of the county party leaders, not all, because there are some that are very good. Like Dave McMullen there in Pierce County is fantastic. He's a good friend. Matt Brown out in Yakima I like him very much too. There's a few that are good, but a lot of them are good, well-meaning people that just don't have the fundamental understanding of how the system works, and so it becomes difficult. It's like handing an untrained surgeon a scalpel and said, "Hey, listen, you need to perform brain surgery." Like, you're going to end up with a Frankenstein, right? And so that's really politically what is going on, is they don't know how to do the grassroots work. And if they do know how to do it, but they refuse to do it, that's dereliction of duty. But I don't really see that. I see it's more really a sin of ignorance. They don't know what to do. Some of them are stubborn and they don't want to be taught. They don't want to learn. Kind of a father's knows best type leadership style, which is not productive. I think the WSRP, and I've long said this, and I've been highly critical of Jim Walsh and his terrible leadership of the WSRP. And it's time for a change. I think at the reorg meeting, I think Jim needs to go. I think they need to clean house. I think with very few exceptions, county party leaders, and I know I'm going to take a lot of heat for this, and I'm not making any friends by saying this, but that's okay. I'm not looking for very many more friends, so it's okay. I think they all need to go. And I think we need to really fundamentally start over and say, okay, what is it that a political party is supposed to do? What is our job, right? Our job is not to be right. Our job is not to win the argument. Right. Our job is to build a thriving grassroots organization that involves people and reaches into the community to change hearts and minds. And you do that through organization. You do that through a plan, an actual plan. And then as the leader, you excite the base to go out and execute the plan. And you lead from the front, right? You don't sit in the office while they're out there knocking doors. Your ass is out there knocking doors too, right? It's doing the hard work. It's leading from the front. And if we can do that, then I think we can start winning races maybe not 2 years, probably 4 years. We can stop the bleeding in 2 years. We can start winning races in 4. And, maybe we can start picking off a few races where we kind of punch above our weight class in 6, maybe 8 years. But I agree with Brandi. I think it's the governorship is out of reach. I think any sort of statewide senatorial race is going to be out of reach for a very long time in Washington State as it stands.
Well, let me add to what you're saying in this sense, right? So this election cycle, we've had several Republican candidates in the studio here with us locally here from the 23rd, stuff like that, right? Incredibly ill prepared. Kevin and I talked about it privately afterwards about how just there seemed to be they didn't know what to do. They didn't know how to act. They didn't know how to respond. They didn't know how to present themselves, right? And you know, in my opinion, that falls on the party. Now, you can tell me if I'm wrong about that, but I think that there should be people within the party, when you have a candidate running, that's teaching them how to speak, the kinds of things they should say, helping them make their points, right? Make the case for people to vote for them. And
Can I illustrate that?
Yeah.
When we ask a candidate, what are you running for? Like, what made you want to run? Like, that is the softballiest softball question I can give somebody. And when they look at us and they're like, well, they don't even have an intro idea on just the simplest of questions that should have already be part of their framing.
And none of the three of them, to be absolutely fair to them, started working until after the primary.
Yeah.
And when you don't have name recognition, you can't wait till after the primary to run against three incumbents.
And I'm not knocking them, because I think they were great people.
But yeah, they didn't really start doing anything until after the primary against three incumbents. You can't do that.
Yeah.
Chris, follow-up question though, because you said, well, you know, the WSRP chair needs to go and the county peeps need to go. And I guess this whole time, man, I was thinking that would be a foregone conclusion. I mean, if you march into this election, you don't make any headway, you lose the governor's office again, you inch closer, or God forbid, give Democrats a supermajority. Wouldn't that be a foregone conclusion that everybody in leadership has to step aside, and let alone the fact that you've got no money in the bank?
Kevin, it's been since 1980, what, 88?
88.
It's status quo, man.
Dem control since 88.
Yeah,
Well,
but it's status quo.
Well, but you have to also consider the fact that, you know, like when JT Wilcox, who's no longer in the House, he was the House Minority Leader. He inherited 48 caucus members. When he left the caucus, there was 40, and now after this cycle, we could be at 38 or 39. I'm feeling it might be 39, or maybe even 38. So on a good day, it'll be 40, but I don't think so. I think that you're going to find super majorities for the Dems in both chambers, right? The House and the Senate. Okay. Having said that, you would think that you would get rid of that type of leadership, like John Braun in the Senate, complete train wreck of a leader. They've lost seats, and this isn't me disagreeing with their political positions, because, you know, just because I don't like them, it's nothing to do with that. Though I don't agree with them, they're more moderate than my personal politics, but I just don't like their leadership style. I don't like the cannibalism that you find in the Republican caucus when they intentionally target people within their own caucus that they don't like and get rid of them. Like, that's counterproductive when you're trying to stay out of when you're trying to gain seats. It's counterproductive because you're spending time, talent, and treasure chasing down people that are members of your own caucus. Mm-hmm. And the reality is you don't like to deal with them because maybe they're more conservative than you on social issues. So instead of showing leadership and negotiating with them and bringing everybody together and creating a team and us, let's go and let's defeat them. Now all of a sudden, you're
Chris, we're going to go to break. Hold on. We'll continue this with Chris Gergen after the break. It's Outlaw Radio. All right, back on Facebook. Chris, go ahead and finish that thought, man. Sorry about that.
So I think that there's the caucuses and the WSRP. They don't understand how to assess races properly. You know, they don't understand how to look at the metrics, to look at the standards of deviation, to do statistical analysis on stuff, to target assets and resources to races that are winnable and then avoid races that are not winnable. You know, they're giving money to their friends in districts that they don't need to, you know, like in the 2nd district, there's 2 Republicans running, and Stokesbury who's the leader of A-Truck, gave $40,000 into the 2nd district, the 2nd LD, in a race where there's 2 Republicans. Like, that's stupid. Like, you're in danger of losing 2 seats. So instead of putting all your resources into backing those candidates to make sure that there's a wall, you know, your way, like that type of stuff's got to stop, right? And then the WSRP is just it it doesn't have a cohesive message. It isn't aggressive. It doesn't go after the Dems. It doesn't create narrative. It doesn't cause problems for the Democrats. It doesn't put them into narrative traps. Like Jim Walsh couldn't create a narrative trap to save his life. He probably doesn't know what a narrative trap is. And he surely doesn't know how to do it in the media, because I've watched him in the media. Right. So Jim is like to go around the state and be the deep booming voice in a big empty suit. And this is what we have. We get murdered in November, and it's got to change.
All right, hold on. More with Chris Gergen. We're going to come back on the AM side after this. I'm going to ask him if he wants a job, if he'll take the job. Hold on. We'll get to that in a second. Outlaw Radio.
No.
Outlaw Radio Network. I'm Brandi Kruse, host of the Undivided Podcast, and you're listening to Outlaw Radio. Good luck.
I love watching Paul's face. Outlaw Radio. Chris Gergen joins us again from Vegas, my favorite city in the world. Chris, here's my question for you. If Republicans called and said, look, we know we got to rebuild this Republican Party from scratch on a state level. We got to bring somebody in from outside of the system. We got to go completely anew. Chris, will you become the leader? Will you become the head of the WSRP?
Well, no, because there's a residency requirement, and there's no way I'm leaving Las Vegas. That's the first thing, and number two, I don't really feel like that's my calling to be a part of the system. I would, however, take an advisory position, right, to help the next leader, to point them in the right direction. Because I genuinely understand the fact that there are Republicans in Washington State that don't agree with me. Right. There are some, like, politically, right. I understand that there are some moderates. I understand that there are some people that are not as hard right as I am on things like life and on things like the Second Amendment and on certain things. But if we're arguing about transportation policy, like, I don't really care. I mean, you can be fine, whatever. I'm a low tax, small government guy. Right. So we can create narrative. I feel like we need to create narrative that is broad enough to build a consensus, but still focused enough to create a differentiation between Republicans and Democrats. The problem is that the people that have been in charge haven't had the skill set, or at least they haven't demonstrated that they have the skill set to create a narrative that still creates distinction from the Democrats, but is still broad enough to build broad consensus, right? And so Republicans, just traditionally, and this is not a Washington State problem, this is a Republican problem in general, have had, up until Trump, have had a really bad time with building coalitions, right? Democrats traditionally are very good at building coalitions. How can you go after the gay vote and the LGBT community, and then also get the Muslims, right, who are ardently anti-LGBTQ, but both get them to vote blue, right? So that's coalition building, and that's negotiation, and that's skill set, right? Republicans have really boxed themselves into being one-dimensional. I don't say that to be critical. It's just an observation, right? And it's something. It's a weak area. It's an area of weakness where we need to develop our skill set, not sell our soul, still be true to who we are, but at the same time understand how to negotiate things and bring people to the table.
Brandi brought up an interesting conversation when we were talking about the Washington 6th Congressional District. Why have Republicans not seemed to be able to be competitive in that district?
In which district?
In the 6th. That's basically like Kitsap County all the way over to the ocean. It's like the whole northwest corner of.
Oh, the 6th Congressional, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, number one, the voter registration is jacked up. So I can pull that up if you give me just a moment. Congressional District 6, I can tell you. So in Washington State, obviously everybody here knows, and if you don't, then you're welcome. In Washington State, they don't register people Republican, Democrat, Green Party, whatever. It's just the data sets are inferred, or they get tagged in a certain way. And there's a lot of different ways that they determine, and it's not an exact science. but it's 90%, on point. So in the 6th congressional district, you have 53% that are identified as Democrats and 30% that are tagged as Republicans, and then you've got 17.3% that are independent, right? Mm-hmm. So that becomes very difficult, right? When you've got like a 1.75, so for every one Republican, you have 1.75 Democrats. It becomes exceedingly difficult to win, which is why it's typically a 60-40 district, right?
Yeah.
So that district's not winnable. There needs to be a lot of groundwork that is done there. The 8th district that at one time, Mr. Eckert was the congressman, and then, so that district is 46% Democrat, 32% Republican, and 22% swing. So that has actually gotten more blue. So so that district used to be have an even rating, and now it's a D+1 or a D+2, right? So it's incredibly difficult to win in that district. We're not going to win that district back until we do a lot of groundwork, right? Down in the 3rd, where Joe Kent is running, it's a tough district too. I mean, it's 44% Democrat, 36% Republican, 20% swing. And
that sounds at least winnable with the right ground game.
With the right ground game, it is. This so 44%. So of the ballots that have been turned in, this is as of Friday. Of the ballots that have been turned in, 44% have been Republican, 11% have been independent, and then 45% have been Democrat. So Kent's got a shot there, and Kent has run, I think this time he's run a really good race. He's run a better race this cycle than he did last cycle, in my most humble opinion. I think he learned some lessons there, and I like Joe as a person. I do, and I think he's a good candidate. I think he wins this time. I think that Harris is a drag on Kent's opponent, and so I can see him winning that seat. And that's about it. I mean, statewide, I mean, there's, and then obviously you've got the 4th, which is Sessler against who's the incumbent there? The incumbent's going to win. Sessler, it's not going to be a blowout, but the incumbent's going to win
enough to feel comfortable with the win. Yeah, I got
Chris, do you have the breakdown for the 6th already? Because one thing I heard Brandy say a while back that I thought was interesting is she was saying that Clallam County is the only county left that's accurately predicted the presidential election every single time.
Clallam.
Yeah, in like the last 40 years or so.
Yeah, for forever. There used to be about 10 or 12, and after 2020, Clallam's the other one left.
Bellwether, isn't that what that's called?
Yeah.
Yeah. Typically, Kitsap is also a bellwether, and that may have changed, right? But last time I looked, Kitsap was also there. So the early breakdown for Clallam County is 52% for Dems, 40% for Republicans, and 7.5% independent. So that's going to be a close, overcoming that 12%. There's going to have to be a lot of Republicans vote late, like a lot.
Like all of them.
Like all of them.
Well,
Clallam's not that big.
So I'm curious. So if Rick here decides he's going to throw away his city council career, and he wants to run for Congress in 8 years, running for that 6th, right?
Okay.
Where would he? What would you advise him to do to start with? Does it all start with the ground game, or do you start with voter registration? If his plan is 8 years out.
Well, first of all, it's not his responsibility to do those things as the candidate. That's first and foremost. The parties, what they have done, and this is, again, a nationwide problem, not just Washington specific, but a lot of times what will happen is that the county parties and the state parties really don't know what to do on the ground, or they don't do the grassroots thing. And so they depend on candidates to go knock the doors, collect the data for them to update their database, right? And for candidates to go out and do voter registration. So that's just stupid. Honestly, I don't want one of my clients out there registering voters. Like, that's not what they're supposed to be doing. They're supposed to be doing, candidates have two things that they do. They shake hands and they raise money. That is all they do. They don't do anything else other than shake hands and raise money. Okay. And if they're out there doing other things, then, you know, and we're talking about at the congressional level, right?
Not to contradict Chris, but number one most important thing is that Rick has 9 years to early retirement from his real job.
Well, then listen,
so
I've got
8
you right on
years.
the right
Rick's
timeline.
still working.
Yeah.
So,
hey,
the council does not only pays $12,000 a year. Rick's got a real job that pays the bills. So,
Chris, Robert asked in chat, do you have any thoughts on the numbers for Jesse Young's race as well as the race for Matt Marshall is in?
So yes, I have thoughts on that, and because I'm a paid consultant for both of them, I'm not going to give my opinion on it.
Fair enough.
That's fair. Yeah.
Okay. So, Chris, man, you're not making me feel very optimistic about the state stuff.
Because we're screwed, dude.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to sit up here and give you, you know, I'm not going to say, how do I say this? Because we're on the radio.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tinkle on your forehead and tell you that it's raining. Okay. I'm going to tell you the truth. And the truth of the matter is that it doesn't look good for Republicans and conservatives. And there's a lot of reasons for that. You know, I think the number one thing, and this may sound strange to some of your listeners coming from me, but the number one thing we have to do is put the swords down amongst ourselves. I tried to have this conversation back in March, and there were some people that wanted to listen, and I have bridged some gaps with some people that I was not necessarily aligned with 4 years ago when I worked with Mr. Culp. And I have found some good alliances, some people that I can work with that are smart people. We may not agree on everything, but we have a constructive relationship. I think there needs to be more of that. And I think that if you're going to play the game, then that needs to be one of the required rules that we all kind of agree on, to where, you know, if you're doing stupid things like, you know, primarying Republicans, like in a deep red district, like, no, dude, don't. Why are you doing that? Like, why would you do that? Why would you run a Republican against? Like, I'll be honest with you, when Joe Kent primaried Jamie Herrera Butler, I understood it, but I didn't agree with it because of what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Joe took out an incumbent and then lost and flipped the seat to the Dems.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's the real that's the risk there. Right. And so I think Joe did learn a lesson from there, and he's running a much better race this time. And I think he's going to win the seat and right the wrong there. But why do we have to wait 4 years? Like, why do we have to waste 4 years?
Mm-hmm. Well, you're basically doing all the op research for your opponent. I mean, the Republicans to tear into each other, and the Democrat gets to stand back and watch them fight with each other. And then any like tainted fruit of evidence that they find against each other, then the Democrats got that. They didn't spend any money, any effort, any time, any energy to get it. It was a gift. I totally agree with you. Unless it's Michelle Caldier, at which point I'm for any Republican trying to unseat her at any time.
But Michelle has been, she's been an incumbent for a long time, and it's very difficult to unseat an incumbent in a primary.
Well, you know, and Chris, it's not just been like you were saying, the Republican. I mean, we've seen it. It's that a lot of that's happened this cycle all across. I mean, in the 23rd, we had Democrats primarying Democrats. We had so many Democrats running for the county seat position too, that, you know, I mean, I did the math. If Matt hadn't been in that race, if you took Matt's votes and split them amongst the Democrats, one of the Democrats would have overtaken one of the Republicans that's now in the race. So I mean,
23rd was the worst.
I mean, Kitsap County has split. I mean, it was kind of happening in all directions. So
we'll talk about this more.
Interesting.
We're going to go on the AM side to the top of the hour news. Facebook, stay there with us. We'll keep chatting. Another hour with Chris, unless he hangs up on us.
And we got a question from the chat room.
We do. Hold on, Outlaw Radio. So, we've still got Chris Gergen on the line with us, Rick Eckert in studio as well. To back up what you were talking about, and you'll know the names because I don't remember them off the top of my head, but you had Tara Simmons was endorsing
Bryn Felix,
who was running against an incumbent in
Greg Nance.
Thank you.
And there was another there's a third Democrat also in that primary.
Well, but I thought it was funky that a state representative who is as well entrenched in her race as Tara is was backing someone who was not the incumbent, and it runs the risk of fracturing it, right? Like as Chris, as you were saying, I mean, you're doing the op-ed for him. You're dismantling your own party, which just makes it easier for the other party in the general election to take all that cool stuff you just, like Christmas morning. Here's all the cool stuff you just gave me. How could I use it against you?
And you don't do that in a contested race. Like if it's a deep red district,
because the other two, I mean, if you want to look at this purely in a political spectrum route, the other two ran left of Greg.
Yeah.
So, and then Dr. Miles being the Republican now. So you're not going to see a lot of Bryn Felix voters voting for Miles.
No.
They're all going to come home to Greg. So I think that's partly why it happened. I heard lots of things behind the scenes, and I'm not going to get into, but you had 3 Democrats running in that primary, which was unusual. One being he was the incumbent, he was appointed. So maybe you could say, well, he was an appointed incumbent versus elected, but kind of what is going on in the 26th on the Republican side is the same things going on the 23rd on the Democrat side. And then countywide, we saw a bit, like I said, the numbers added up to now you have 2 Republicans and a write-in trying to kind of catch up to that, which we know how write-in campaigns go. They're all really hard. So yeah, it's been a very, very interesting election cycle. Just looking at it purely from an intellectual standpoint, regardless of who you're rooting for.
Really, I don't want to get anything too deep, Chris, because we're going to be coming back on the AM side in a second. But do you ever get to watch this stuff like for me, election night is I'm like a sports fan. This is like the Super Bowl to me. I'm not really vested in most of the races. Like I really want Jesse to win, but most races I'm just kind of like, God, this is like the Super Bowl, and I'm watching the commercials and eating some popcorn. Do you ever look at these races like that, or are you too far into it to be able to do that?
No, I look at the numbers, I look at the stats. I am a fan on election night. You know what I mean? And especially in the national races, in statewide races, or state level races, where I have clients, I like the combat. That's why I'm in politics. And you kind of have to have a little bit of a sick twist to be in this business. You have to like the fight. You have to like it when they punch you in the mouth, and you got to like the ability to punch back. And if you can't do that, then this is the wrong business for you. And so I absolutely watch as a fan. There's a lot of candidates I'm rooting for, and there's a lot of candidates I'm rooting against, but it's like I love the New Orleans Saints. I lived in New Orleans for a lot of years, right? The Saints are just terrible. Other than the one year they went to go to the Super Bowl, the Saints are just terrible. They could play St. Mary's School for the Blind and they would probably still lose, but I'm still going to root for the Saints, right? Because I enjoy the game. And so that's a lot of times the way that I look at certain races. And then there's other races that I watch that I know we're going to dominate. And I love watching Democrats cry. It makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside. And so, I enjoy that side of it as well.
We'll have to get you some of Tom's Liberal Tears vodka.
I love it. Send it.
All right, we're gonna come back on the AM side here in just a second. So again, if you're enjoying the show, we invite you to tune in for election coverage on Tuesday night. We'll go live at 4. We'll break down some of the stuff we're watching for at 5. The national numbers will start coming in from the East Coast. 8 o'clock, obviously, the Washington numbers will come in. We'll be tracking it all. We'll have a lively conversation and phone calls and all that. So stick around. Outlaw Radio. We're back after this on the AM side, right here on Mega Talk
Radio Network.com.
There's no.
You're listening to the Outlaw Radio Network.
I can't stop this feeling deep inside of me. Girl, you just don't realize what you do to me. When you hold me in your arms so tight, you let me know everything's all right.
We're all stupid and we're voting for Michelle Caldier.
A bunch of a-holes.
I voted for Tiffany. Does anybody else notice that Kevin's obsession with Michelle Caldier?
She's deceitful. She's dishonest. She has no
to
integrity.
A man that has a secret crush,
And she owes 2 of my daughters
Right.
$20 and she hasn't paid them.
Like, it sounds to me like he's really like into her, if you know what I mean.
No, I'm just-
and he's like really pissed off that he can't get the time of day from her.
Not, well, no.
Just what it sounds
You
like.
can make up whatever you want to.
So when Brandon brings Nicole in, we'll take care.
You said yourself, Paul,
I
that you
said
wouldn't-
myself,
You
Paul.
said yourself,
Yeah.
comma, Paul, comma.
You got to
that-
put those commas in the right
that
place.
you
Ask
didn't-
the White House.
That you didn't want to vote for her, but you're
Yes,
voting
apostrophe.
for.
Thanks a lot, grammar Nazi.
Your
Well, it
vote,
was a yeoman.
you didn't want to vote for Caldier, and you've said on this show yourself that you think she doesn't have integrity. But
No,
you're,
I said she's very, very thin-skinned.
but you're voting for her because of the R, not because of her.
Yes, because my worst goddamn nightmare is waking up on Wednesday morning and finding out that Democrats have a freaking supermajority. Should be your worst nightmare too. You're too well educated on these topics.
Well,
but no, you're going to vote Democrat.
Chris thinks they're gonna have a supermajority no matter what. So I'm gonna die on this ship. Chris Gergen joins us with Dark Horse Political from Vegas. Rick Eckert in studio along with K-Dog, Paul, Tom. Lori is running around here doing something. I'm not sure what. Phil is running the boards, and Dennis is here looking sexy as always. Chris, thanks for taking a long night on a Sunday. Your wife's not going to stab you in the eye with a number 2 pencil, is she?
No, she's good. She works long hours too. In fact, she just got back from a 12-hour day, and she'll be up early tomorrow. You know, working hard and rolling. Then her team has worked really hard. She's working 70, 80, 90-hour weeks and has since July, and it's showing here in Nevada. You know, I have a lot of people have Trump winning Nevada for the first time in 20 years, or a Republican winning Nevada for the first time in 20 years at the presidential level. And so I have him at 4.5. I think he'll win Nevada by 4.5. It just keeps getting better and better. And that's actually lower than Atlas Intel. Atlas is really my go-to.
Wait, now Atlas is your go-to. The last time you were on, I asked you what you thought about them, and they were number 2 on your list.
Well, Atlas and Rasmussen both are good.
Okay.
Rasmussen, I mean, they're not interchangeable. Rasmussen is better at presidential daily polling because they take the poll every day.
Yeah, they do.
But Atlas has been the most accurate over probably the last 4 to 6 years.
Yeah, that's what I've seen too. And did you see their polling data that came out tonight?
I have not. No.
Yeah, I'll while you talk to Kevin here for a second, I'll pull it up. I've got it. They basically put out the swing states. This
Oh, I did see that earlier. My father sent it to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to start picking races because I have no idea how long this is going to take. I don't want us to bust through this quick. Like I want there to be the opportunity for discussion and for reasoning, but I don't want to spend in 15 minutes on one race. Okay. Because otherwise we'll never get through this. This show will last all night, which is fine by me because I don't have a wife to go home to. So let's start with national races.
Okay.
We have what we've identified as 7 swing states. I'm not going to count
You
Iowa.
actually have 8 on here. You guys have New Hampshire.
Oh, I do have 8. I added New Hampshire just because of some polls that came out earlier today that suggested it might be a swing. I don't know if it is or not, but I put it in. I'm not going to count Iowa as a swing because it's not. It's going to be Republican like it has been since the dawn of time. Paul, we're going to start with you.
Yes.
And we're going to work through the whole group. So
hold on. Holly is correct. She has labeled this radio show your wife.
That makes perfect sense.
It does.
Because like Paul and his wife, I don't make this wife happy either. Okay. Paul, swing state, Arizona.
Yeah.
Who takes Arizona?
Trump.
Well, thanks for the input. I got Trump as well. There's no way Arizona doesn't go Trump. Tom, who do you got?
I probably agree with you, Trump.
Probably.
Yeah.
Nice to be decisive, Lori.
Let's be
Jesus,
honest,
pick a side, would you?
The last 3 days, I have not had a lot of time to sit down and read.
That's
Trump.
typical libertarian.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
I'm changing the order so that you guys aren't switching sides.
How
Chris,
about
who takes
typical small
Arizona?
business owner.
Trump +5.
Trump +5. He's giving
+5.
margins.
Wow.
Rick, who takes Arizona?
Yeah, I haven't broken down state by state as well, but I think Arizona is Trump.
All right. I'll pick first for Georgia. I think Georgia goes Trump too. I think Stacey Abrams.
Andrew, you and I are going to come to blows, son.
Oh, Phil, are you going to pick too? Okay, Phil, who do you got for Arizona? I didn't know you were going to pick.
How about Arizona +3?
You got who? What?
Trump.
Oh, Trump. Okay. You said Arizona +3, and that didn't make any sense to me.
I mean,
All right.
obviously, it'd be my team.
Oh, okay. Georgia, I think Stacey Abrams needs to get out of politics and never come back. Everything she touches turns to a flaming pile of crap.
Agreed.
And so I think Trump by a big margin in Georgia. Tom?
Real? Dude, I don't know on Georgia. Georgia's so weird right now. The bits I have been able to read, it's all old now. I think Georgia's going to be close.
You got to pick one or the other.
Trump, but close.
Okay. Chris?
Trump by 2.5.
All right. Lori?
I think it's going to be a toss-up. You have your metro areas are going to go Dem, but your outlying rural areas and suburbia are going to probably go Trump. I think it's going to be super close, to be honest.
You got to pick one or the other. This is a game.
I'm going to go Harris.
All right. By the way, if you are listening to this show and you want to be in on this pick thing, shoot me a message on Facebook, or you can email info@outlawradionetwork.com, and we'll send you over a Word document of this. You can get it back to us by Tuesday. We're going to compile all the results.
That email address is Kevin Still Single.
No, it's info
@gmail.com.
info@outlawradionetwork.com. Rick, who takes Georgia?
So about a month ago, I would have agreed totally with Lori, but I think Trump now, based on the hurricane, I think there's enough bad feeling from the hurricane response that I think it'll tip just over into Trump.
You know, and some people might say that that's not fair. I think it's a completely fair criticism.
Well, the sitting administration always takes the flak in
It
natural disasters.
Happened to Bush with Katrina too.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think it's going to be really tight. I think it's going to go over to Trump because of that.
All right, Phil?
Trump.
All right. And Paul?
We're talking about Georgia?
Yeah, Georgia.
Trump +2.
All right. Tom, you're going to pick first Michigan.
Michelle, go Harris. Harris.
Michigan, go Harris. All right. Chris?
Ooh, I have it as a toss-up. I think it could go Harris by less than 1%, probably by 0.5%.
Okay. Lori?
So Michigan, I'm going to go Trump.
You better talk right in that microphone.
Michigan, I'm going to go with Trump. And the reason why is that the Muslim vote has come out for Trump.
Yeah. Hold the mic up.
They did break big for him, didn't they?
Your mic's a little limp, kind of.
By the way, I don't know if you guys saw this, but even CNN is calling Kamala Harris out now for giving opposing speeches on her stand with Israel and Gaza based on who she's talking to. She was in Minnesota and gave a speech in Minnesota where she said, I will never back down from supporting the Palestinians and I will not be silenced and a whole bunch of that stuff. And then she goes to Pennsylvania and she says, I will never stop supporting Israel. They will always find a friend in me in the United States. They'll always have my support. I'm like, well, okay, but this is the day of the internet where videos get shared and you get outed for being a klutz.
That's why all of her accents are coming back to bite her in the butt. She most current one, she decided to have that preacher accent going on.
There you go. Rick,
come on now. Somebody stand up and help me.
Yeah, I think Michigan will also be close. I think it'll go Trump, and I think that'll be because I think there'll be some suppression, essentially self-suppression, from all the Middle East discord on the Democratic side.
I think that's highly overlooked.
And I think the EV mandates have pushed a lot of the workers towards Trump, even though the big union leadership still supported him. I think a lot of the workers are leaning towards Trump because they're worried about their jobs going away.
Yeah, that's a great point. Phil?
Definitely Trump.
All right. And Paul?
Michigan, Atlas polling house, Trump +2.
All right. Chris, you get to pick this one first. Nevada, your home state, your backyard.
Trump by 4.5.
Lori?
Somebody's been watching some inside polling data.
I'm just saying.
Oof. I haven't really paid attention to Nevada. Probably Trump.
Okay.
For business.
All right, Rick.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Trump only because I haven't paid attention either, other than the one thing about the not taxing tips. So if that carried enough weight, I think he'll get it.
Yeah, that would be a big swing in Nevada. But just really quick with Nevada, Chris. Nevada is such a Latino heavy state. If Nevada goes Trump, doesn't that completely wreck the left's narrative that minorities hate Trump? I mean, if Nevada goes Trump, wouldn't that slaughter their narrative?
I mean, their narrative is slaughtered. I mean, they just keep repeating it, right? But and everybody knows that it's not true. And even CNN and even MSNBC has reported the lack of support and the shift to the right by the Latino voters and black male voters, specifically, towards more conservative candidates over the last 8 years, right? So they compared 16 to 20 to now 24. And they're seeing, and here in Nevada, I mean, the reason that, I live here, and the Nevada GOP has a great chairman. And he's not loved by everyone, but at the end of the day, he's a really good chairman. And the team here in Nevada has done a great job. Even prior to my wife, I mean, we have a Republican governor here. We got rid of the Democrat 2 years ago. And so Nevada, I believe, will be a reliably red state within 4 years. So,
all right.
My 2 cents.
Phil, who do you got taking Nevada?
Trump.
Paul?
Again, I'll go with that Atlas polling data, Trump +5.
Yeah, I got Trump as well.
I have a quick question. Phil, are you picking based on like you also pick football?
Pretty much.
Because you always try to come in last.
No, I think I'm coming first.
Oh, okay.
Right.
I'm just.
Tom, who are you picking? Nevada.
Oh,
the state.
Yeah, certainly Trump.
It's where Las Vegas is the greatest city on the planet.
It's one of the greatest cities. Yeah.
All right.
Second to Gorst.
Lori, you're going to pick first on this one. North Carolina.
Trump.
All right. Rick.
Trump.
Phil.
Trump.
Paul.
Trump +3.
I got Trump as well. Tom.
Actually, I think Rick made a good point earlier. I think it's going to be Trump big because the hurricane.
Okay. Chris.
Trump +3.
+3. All right. Rick, you're going to pick first. Where is that from? Okay.
Keep going.
People. Okay. Rick, you'll pick first. Pennsylvania. Hold on. I'm going to say this. Whoever wins Pennsylvania wins the presidential race. I think Pennsylvania is key. Rick?
Yeah, I think you're right. And the fact that was my home state and I don't vote there anymore after it finally became a swing state. I think that Pennsylvania is going to go Trump. I don't think it's going to be big. I think it's going to be really tight. And I think it's going to be based on the fracking industry. And I think it's going to be based on the changing demographic towards Trump in Philly.
Wait, is she for fracking or against fracking? I can't really figure that out.
What day is it, Paul?
Exactly.
But
she doesn't know either.
I think the demographic shift in Philly is that has been favoring him. That's it's kind of like here, with Seattle and its influence. It's Philly the same way there. Philadelphia by far is the biggest population center compared to the entire rest of the state. Pittsburgh doesn't equal. Harrisburg doesn't come close. Scranton doesn't come close. Philly will drive it. And if Philly's leaning even slightly towards Trump, that'll erase the margin that Biden had last time.
All right. You got Trump. Phil?
Trump.
Paul?
For Pennsylvania?
Yeah.
So what really shifted my opinion on Pennsylvania was listening to John Fetterman discuss how much enthusiasm for Trump is in Pennsylvania. So Trump +1.5.
All right. I got Harris. I don't want it to be Harris, but I think Harris takes
Did
Pennsylvania.
you hear Fetterman's interview with Rogan recently?
I have not listened to it yet.
It was actually very interesting because he asked Senator Fetterman if the much talked about immigration bill that didn't pass, if it was true. Basically, isn't it true that had that passed, there was a path for immigration or for amnesty, which reinforces the idea of bringing people in to add to voter rolls? And Fetterman said yes.
Yes, that's true.
So
it was in there.
I also think that's a big admission, and for Rogan's audience, I think it's gonna. I think there's just enough there to push Philadelphia or push Pennsylvania over.
Tom, who do you got? Pennsylvania.
I think Pennsylvania is going to be probably as close as Michigan, but it'll go Trump.
Okay, Chris.
Trump +2.
And Lori
just had to one up me, didn't you, Chris? Like you couldn't handle my 1.5. He like I'm going to go +2.
I'm enthusiastic. What can I say?
I'm going to say Trump.
Trump. Okay.
And $1.
Oh, don't be so. Look, you're so pessimistic about it.
All
Be
right.
excited. Trump +2.
Phil, Wisconsin.
I'm just sticking with my answer of Trump.
Trump. Okay. All right. Paul,
makes me think of that scene from the movie Stripes. It's like Wisconsin. We drive in, we drive out. No problem. I got my ass kicked in Wisconsin. You know, yeah, I drive. Okay. I'm going to go Trump +1.
Okay.
I think he ekes it out in Wisconsin.
I think Harris. I think Harris is going to own that part of the country.
I'm going to make an observation, Chris. Do you remember when we were kids and we used to watch the Sesame Street? Mm-hmm. One of these kids is doing his own thing.
Yep. One of these kids is not like the other. Yeah, one of us is right.
That's exactly right.
Tom, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin.
Wisconsin. I don't know. I've done very little reading on Wisconsin. I mean, I could
nobody reads about Wisconsin except if they're looking at cheese.
I know. Yeah. I know.
Flip a coin. You're a libertarian.
I spent a year in Wisconsin one night. Go ahead.
She must have been a nice gal.
This is just a wild ass guess at this point. I'm going to go with Harris.
Okay,
yeah,
Chris
had to be different.
I have Trump at 1.2.
Okay, Lori.
I'll give Harris one of them.
Okay.
Wisconsin.
Rick.
Yeah, I'm actually Harris for Wisconsin. I think, if nothing else, because of what happened with 2016, I think that the Democrats would overcompensate in Wisconsin this time. And so they put so much effort in there. I think Harris will take it.
All right. Paul, New Hampshire.
What?
New Hampshire.
It's cold up there.
Thank you for that
you know
analysis.
what? I'm in New Hampshire. I'm going to actually go Harris.
Brandy's going to be talking on her show tomorrow. She's like, we got some great insight from the Outlaw Radio Network. New Hampshire is cold. All right. You got Harris. I got Harris too. Tom?
Probably Harris.
Okay. Chris?
Harris +4.
Lori?
Harris.
Rick?
Yeah, Harris.
And Phil?
I'm just going to be Trump just to be a...
There's nothing wrong with that answer. You're a real fan.
The same way I do my football
You are
picks.
a true fan.
Yeah, okay. New England's pretty Democratic stronghold.
Just a little bit, yeah.
I mean, maybe they'll live free or die. I don't know. It's
maybe.
Long shot.
All right. U.S. Senator Maria Cantwell against Raul Garcia. Cantwell is the incumbent. I'll pick first. This is probably one of the easiest ones to pick. Cantwell wins running away. Tom? Again, I just want to preface this before the people that have listened that never listened to the show before. I'm not advocating for this. I'm picking what I think, not what I want. Tom?
And yeah, I sadly I think you're right.
Chris?
Cantwell.
Lori?
Unfortunately, Cantwell.
Rick?
Yeah, I think Cantwell will get reelected.
Phil, don't say Trump.
That was what I was going to do.
I know you were.
I think it's going to be Maria Cantwell.
Okay. And Paul?
Cantwell.
All right. Tom, in the 6th congressional race, Emily Randall against Drew McEwen. Emily, the Democrat, McEwen, the Republican, and neither one of them are the incumbent. As Derek Kilmer is stepping aside.
I don't think this state's gonna. It'll be Randall.
Okay, Chris.
Randall.
Lori?
Again, these are not picks that I want. These are what I think is going to happen.
McEwen.
Wow. Okay. All right. This is
Wishful thinking.
This is why we pick Rick.
Yeah, I think Randall's going to take it.
Phil.
Well, it was going to be McEwen, but you voted for Randall, so that's why Randall.
Randall. Okay.
It's your
Paul.
fault.
I got it, Randall.
Okay.
That pains me, but
This is a race that I want. This is exactly what I want to happen. I want Randall in this seat.
yeah, we know.
I know.
We
But
all
Chris,
know the
Chris,
story.
can I tell you why, Chris?
No, you already
I know.
explained.
I read it. I read it. I
You
know
read
why.
it? Do you disagree with me?
Strategically, I do not.
Thank you. And he is a smart man and a political operative. He is a genius, and he agrees with me.
Chris,
strategically,
there are times.
strategically, he thinks
There
I'm
are
Wait a minute.
right.
I already agreed with you, and I,
I know,
didn't get
but
called
now-
a genius.
Well, you are a genius. It goes
Okay,
unsaid
I'm
without
just
being
saying,
said.
You folks realize
I agreed
what
with you
do?
first.
His ego right now, he's got like a bicycle pump.
No,
attached
this is about my ego because I agreed with him first.
And look, here's for the listeners who haven't heard this. If we get Randall out of the state Senate, it'll
Then
be
you'll have a
easier.
Democrat appointed.
But then it'll be easier for a Republican to take that seat. And you're going to have a Democrat in that representative seat for the congressional seat, no matter what.
All right. Well, then, Gergen, if
And
that happens,
she's
you
one of
can come
400
run my campaign and I'll run for the seat. Okay.
She's one of 435 in the U.S. House of Representatives. How much damage can she do? Like next to
Ask
nothing.
AOC.
It's also going to change committee appointments in the Senate here. There's going to be change.
Yeah, it's going to be
It would
perfect.
change things.
It's going to be great. And I can say that I'm right.
What are you smoking?
It's checkers, not chess.
Like
I'm playing the long game like Chris Gergen. All right.
have some fun with that credit card.
All right. What party controls the Senate, the U.S. Senate after this election? Right now, it's controlled by the Dems. What party
I was told
does?
there'd be no math.
No
Republicans,
hard math.
48.
You're gonna have to take your shoes off for this.
I think the Senate is what, +4 for Dems right now? Is that right, Chris?
It's +4, 52 to 48.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think it's going to go 52-48 for the.
I don't
think
count that.
Republicans pick up. I think Republicans. I think they pick up Montana, West Virginia. Those are for sure. And I think there's two others that they're going to pick up, and I can't remember off the top of my head which two they are. We're not going to win. Sam Brown's not going to win here in Nevada. He didn't run a good race. He just didn't run a good race. He tried to grab onto Trump and have Trump drag him across the line, and that isn't how you run a Senate race. And so he just didn't energize the base. And he's not a compelling candidate. This is the third time he's run. He ran in Texas for the Texas House and came in third, moved to Nevada, ran for governor, didn't get past the primary, runs for U.S. Senate, and then, got the nod against a way overcrowded field, but his team wasn't good and he just didn't run a good race. He didn't raise the money. And so he's going to lose here in Nevada. But I can't remember. There's a couple others that we're going to flip.
I know that's.
That's man, that one's going to be a toss up, right? I mean, I'm not a big fan of Carrie Lake personally. I like her politics a hell of a lot better than I liked her challengers. I think it depends on how well. If it's Trump +5 in Arizona, she could win.
What is it about her that people don't like? I haven't done a lot of but I mean, I seem to get the impression like people don't like her personality.
Yeah, it's her personality.
Remember what Rogan said to Trump about?
I don't trust her. She spent 40 years as a Democrat in the media, telling lies to the people, and then magically she has an epiphany and wants to become now magically she's a conservative. I just don't buy it. That's my personal opinion. That's
an easy spin, man. I don't work for the man anymore. I can tell you the truth.
Yeah, I mean, I know, and you know what? I don't know her, right? And I'm not casting aspersions on somebody I don't know. I'm just saying I just don't trust it. Like there's just something there that I'm just like.
I feel you.
I'll tell you exactly what it is. She comes off as an opportunist.
You mean secretly recording somebody trying to buy her off? I mean, it's hard to imagine.
No, and you know what? I mean, that was kudos to her for telling. She probably knew she was being recorded. Because you have to understand that if someone's trying to blackmail you, they're trying to blackmail you in more than one way.
I thought she was the one that recorded it herself.
Right. No, I know that. But what I'm saying is that she had to assume she was probably recording it because she was assuming it was also being recorded. Right.
Yeah,
and so, like if I'm going to try to compromise you, I'm going to record the conversation that way.
Is that a common thing?
Huh?
Is that a common thing, man? Do you see that a lot?
Every day.
I'm in the wrong.
I took multiple calls when Lauren Culp was running for governor, multiple calls prior to the general election, multiple calls from other candidates and representatives of other candidates that I won't name, but called to try to blackmail me or Lauren and pay one of the two of us off to get us out of the race.
Wow.
It's fact.
Wow.
Dirty politics, man.
Dirty. All right. So hold on. So you were saying the GOP controls the Senate after this, Chris?
Yes, 52-48.
All right, Tom.
Yeah. Pardon me. Yeah, I'm hopeful that we're going to see a small majority for the Republicans. It won't be more than 1 or 2 seats.
Okay, Lori.
Same.
GOP. All right, Rick.
Yeah, I think that's where it's going to end up.
Phil.
I can tell you exactly who'll control it.
Who?
The lobbyists.
Pick a party, Phil.
I'm picking Republican.
Okay. Paul.
I will tell you what, listening to Chris gave me a little bit more optimism. I thought it was a good chance they were going to come out 50-50. But having listened to Chris, he inspired me. So I'm going to say 51-49.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to be the outlier. I don't.
Of course you are.
I every time we hear about a red wave, every time it's been talked about some kind of surge of Republicans taking houses in the Senate or in the House, it comes up short. And I don't know why that is, but that's the history we've seen over the last 10 years or so.
Because Jeremy shows up.
So I think the Dems will still have it. I think Republicans might gain a seat. I could see it being tied, but I mean, I could be wrong too. Chris,
there's almost a guarantee of.
Well, they're not going to lose. The Dems aren't going to keep West Virginia because Manchin retired, and the Dem that is running is behind by like a mile. Like he's so far behind, he can't even see the Republican. That's how far behind he is. And then in Montana, Tester's
going to win.
No,
all right, I'm going to go. I'll go with the
losing.
GOP then. Never mind. I'll go with the GOP.
I mean, that guarantees you a tie right there.
Yeah, it does.
So
all right. Okay. Lori, who controls the House of Representatives?
The man. Sorry, Lori.
GOP.
GOP. Rick?
Do it.
That one I have no idea.
Do it.
I got a quarter in my pocket. That's as close. And it's as good as I can guess.
Well, right now Republicans own it.
Yeah. The House to me every single time is a surprise. So I will say Republicans because I'm saying Trump overall. So I think he will carry enough people with him over, but I have zero confidence.
Way to fall to the peer pressure, Rick.
I have zero confidence in that statement. I am not.
Fair enough. Phil?
If I could get the quarter out faster, I would do it.
Grand old party.
Paul?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Republican. The idea of Trump in the White House controlling both houses.
Okay,
I love it.
Yeah, I think they gain seats in the House. I don't think they lose any. Tom,
I agree with you. I think they're going to gain a few seats, not many, but I think the average American voter is going to be voting with their wallet, which means they're
Amen.
Not going further left.
Yep, and I think if you work for the IRS, you might want to find a new job. To all my friends who still work at the IRS, Chris.
Yeah, I think the Republicans keep that majority, and I think they even gain a couple seats. The problem, though, is that there's still a faction of moderate Republicans that can break away and go with the Dems. Yep. So it's not a solid. It's not a solid. It's not a solid majority, right? So there's still some politicking that needs to be done. That is still the case in the Senate as well. So. Yeah, he'll have, if Trump does win, he'll have both chambers of Congress, the upper and lower chambers, but there's still some politicking that needs to be done because they're not solid majorities.
I will scream it from the rooftops, man. On Wednesday, if it looks like Trump has won, the left is going to be sitting in the streets screaming. But that ain't going to be the worst of it when they wake up like Friday morning and realize he has both houses. They're going to be like, oh, damn.
Yeah, there's going to be, there are some Republicans, like Joe Kent will be in this position, right? Because he is in a purple district, right? And so he's going to come underneath a lot of constituent pressure over his 2 years, right? To moderate some of his views. If he goes scorched earth and hard deep red and paints Trump in war paint on his face every day when he walks into Congress, he's going to get blown out 2 years later.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah,
So-
another house is going to be two solid blocks.
Right.
It's going to be shifting.
And that's your
groups.
job, right? If
Yeah.
you're an elected official, your job is to represent your constituents. So I can understand that.
Perfect.
You can always tell this is the best line in the world. I don't know who came up with it, but you can always say my convictions haven't changed.
Right.
All right. Okay. So this will be the big one. Who wins the presidency, Lori? Who is your president after election?
Come on, Lori.
Come
Do
on,
it.
Lori.
Based on what I've
Talk
seen
right in the
this-
front of the microphone.
What
It's
I've
not
seen
directional.
this weekend, I will say Trump.
Okay, Rick.
She saw the light.
Yeah, so I'll say Trump, and I wouldn't say it's from this weekend. What I noticed is as much as a couple weeks ago, what we saw after the debate between Trump and Biden that happened really fast, kind of the overnight moving away from Biden, and suddenly everybody had criticisms of him that didn't before, and people were, suddenly open about things. There's been a slow slide of that happening with Harris for the last couple of weeks. You've seen Democrats suddenly start talking about how they could work with Trump if they had to.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen criticism on networks that normally were solidly behind her.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a much slower roll away, whereas Biden, it was a fast run. But I think that's a acknowledgement inside, in the inside baseball crowd that he's going to win, and that more than anything has convinced me that he's going to win this.
Mm-hmm.
Phil, who you got?
Trump.
Harris.
He said Trump. Who do you got?
Well, I'm going to say Trump, and I do pray that he has both houses because he'll effectively be a lame duck, so he'll actually be able to get stuff done.
Well, we'll see if they can get.
Now, don't mess with my fantasy. You asked what I was going.
I just meant if they can get. Remember what happened when Obama had it, when Trump had it in his first term. There's still so much infighting.
Obama was no Trump.
No, but I'm saying as far as the ability to have control of the House and the Senate and have that party as president.
States still sue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, I hate to be the outlier. I'm going to be the outlier. Harris is going to win. It's I'm sorry.
Stop
I
speaking
don't like
in
it,
absolutes, dude. At
but
least
Harris will
acknowledge
win.
you're guessing.
Tom?
Chase Oliver. No. No, I think
Chris,
it'll
what
be
would
Trump.
you do if Chase Oliver won the election? What would you do?
You'd have diarrhea for a month.
I'd probably go to work at McDonald's because clearly I'm in the wrong line of work.
Damn.
All right, Tom, who do you have? Who's winning?
Your job.
No, it'll be Trump, I
All right.
think.
Chris?
Yeah, I got Trump in a range anywhere from 297 electoral votes up to 312 max.
Okay. So, Paul, pick how many electoral votes do you think he finishes up with? Yeah.
290.
Okay. Remember that 269 would be a tie. So he needs at least 270 for those of you that are picking him. So
I'd
you
like
have
to go.
290?
I'm going to sit in Chris's camp though and go, hey, let's call it 310 and just kind of a nice round number.
Yeah, I got Trump with 268. Like I literally think that's how close this is going to be.
Do you have you been doing this a long time?
Yeah, a long time, Paul.
All right, just checking.
A long time.
You still haven't learned to not speak in absolutes.
All right. I'm picking a number just like you did, Mr. I'm picking an
Yeah,
absolute.
but clearly I know more.
How many numbers you got?
What, electoral college?
Yeah, electoral votes.
Oh boy.
Just say 300, dude. It's good. It's cool.
No,
We're good.
I think it's going to be Trump, but probably somewhere in the 285-ish.
285, okay. Chris?
Yeah, Trump. He's going to be there 297 to 312.
You got to pick a number, Chris.
Oh,
He
if I
gave
had
you
to
a small range.
Yeah, you can't give me a range. You got to pick a number.
Okay. I don't know. Do I want to play it safe or go big?
You're Chris Gergen, man. You go big.
I'm not confident about Michigan. I'm going to go 297.
297. All right.
Of the blue wall, Michigan is the most liberal, and I don't know that he's done enough to get there. So,
okay, Lori.
271.
Oh, close. Okay, Rick.
You pricing right?
Yeah.
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 I didn't do the math well enough. On whatever combination puts him between 290 and 300.
Nope, you don't get a range.
I know. I didn't do the
You want to
math.
say 295 since it's in the middle?
Yeah, I don't know what combination brings him to that, but there are the two Maine and Nebraska where one can go another way. So there's a lot of fudge room there.
Phil, give me a number.
Pi.
Come on, Phil, give me a number.
312.
312. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
and
good.
This isn't on your list, Chris, so I'm sorry for throwing this at you last minute. Paul, you're going to be first. Who wins the popular vote?
If Trump wins the Electoral College, I believe this time he wins the popular vote. Too much backing between the Latinx community and the African American community. I think his percentages are way up, man.
Okay. I have Harris winning the popular vote. Tom?
The only way, if Trump wins the Electoral College, he's going to win the popular vote. I don't see any way for it to go otherwise.
Chris, I think I know, but who wins the popular vote in your book?
I think Trump wins the popular vote.
Lori?
Harris.
Okay. Rick?
Yeah, I still think the California and New York margins are big enough that Harris will still win the popular vote,
Phil?
even if Trump wins.
Trump.
All right. That wraps up our federal stuff. Let's do some state stuff. We're going to work through most of these relatively quickly, okay? Because I want to be able to have time to talk about some of the tight ones. So, really quickly, Lieutenant Governor Hecker Matthews. I'm gonna pick Heck. Is anybody not picking Heck to retain his spot? Anybody?
No.
Speak now or forever hold yourself.
I have Democrats winning every single statewide race.
So, okay. So the next one is public lands, which is Herrera, Butler, or Updegrove. I can't vote for Updegrove just because I hate his last name. Updegrove. So I'm going to pick Herrera, Butler. Is anybody else picking Herrera, Butler?
Yeah, I think if there's any race in the rest of them like that, the Republicans take, it'll be that one. Even the Seattle Times endorsed her.
Yeah, she hasn't raised the money.
So yeah, that one I'm gonna go Herrera Butler.
Anybody else going Herrera, Butler?
Yes.
Yeah.
Lori is too. Paul is too.
Yeah.
All right. Fair enough. Okay, and then everybody else will be Updegrove. That's a ridiculous last name. I mean, I didn't.
Worse could be Bukaki.
Hey, leave Pete alone. All right. Secretary of State Hobbs or Whitaker. Hobbs is the incumbent. Whitaker. I think Whitaker's way out of his scope. He's trying to go from a PCO to a major state office. Like that's a hurdle, man. Is anybody not taking Hobbs? Going once, going twice, everybody's taking Hobbs. Okay.
There are no Republicans that have raised the money to win any of these races, full stop.
All right. State treasurer is How do you pronounce it? Pelliciotti? Pelliciotti, whatever. He is the incumbent. Is anybody not taking him? No. Okay, fair enough. Next, we have state auditor, which is McCarthy or Hawkins. McCarthy is the incumbent. Anybody not taking the incumbent? All right. Next, we have Attorney General, which is Serrano or Brown. Serrano is...
They're both from the AG office.
Yeah, and neither one of them are incumbents.
No.
I'm taking Brown. He's the Democrat, and he was also on Survivor, which makes me happy. Anybody not taking Brown?
I'm not.
You're not.
No.
Serrano raised $440,000. Serrano raised $440,000. Brown raised $2.2 million. You still want to pick Serrano?
Yeah, I'm gonna I had Serrano on that one too.
All right, Bruce got Serrano. Everybody else has Brown?
I have Brown.
I'll get Serrano.
What can Brown do for you? Okay. Superintendent of Public Instruction. Brandy was very optimistic in this race.
Yeah.
I'd like to be optimistic about this race, but I'm a realist, and I believe that Chris Reichel, no matter how awful he is still probably going to win it again, and I hate him. Anybody not picking Reichdahl?
Yeah, I'm not.
Paul's
I'm
got
not.
Olson.
It's a protest vote for my ass. I
Yep.
don't like that guy whatsoever.
Yep.
This isn't about
Me
who
too.
we're voting for. This is
Anybody
about what we
else
think is
picking
gonna win.
Olson?
I get it.
So-
I get it. But I have a prayer life, so
Okay,
I'm gonna put it to
so
use.
we are talking about who we think it's going to be and not who we voted for.
Correct.
Correct. Okay, then
Yeah, like I like Serrano. I want to be super clear. Like he's a friend. Like I like him, but he didn't do the work in fundraising.
Yeah,
All right. I mean, and like Mr. Olson, nice guy. I had a great conversations with him out at the out in Spokane at the convention. Great, good guy. Didn't raise the money.
All right. I got Lori and Paul taking Olson. Anybody else taking Olson?
No, Reichdahl's going to get reelected.
All right.
No, I am hopeful for the governor's office. Otherwise, I mean, everything is going to be a D with the exception of some House seats.
All right. And then for insurance commissioner, I don't know why we vote for this position. It's totally beyond
No,
me.
it's freaking important.
Carterer and Fortunato. Neither one of them is an incumbent. Both two new people going into the race. I'm probably dumb, but I think Phil Fortunato wins this seat.
He's built some name recognition, but for the most part, it's over, kind of in the Pierce County area.
Anybody
I don't think that's
else
enough to
taking Phil?
I am.
Lori's got Phil. Anybody else?
I hope Phil wins, but I got to go with the Democrat just because it's not there's not name recognition for Fortunato, and not enough money.
Chris,
And I
Okay. No way. Phil's I beat Phil like a dog in 2020. That dude couldn't campaign to save his life.
All right. Anybody else
true.
taking Fortunato
It's
besides
true.
me and Lori?
Yeah, no, Carter, because like you said, most people don't even know what that position does, and they're just going to vote party on that.
That's the bad part because it's a damn important
Right.
job.
No, yeah, but most people are going to vote party on that.
Yeah.
It's going to go Democrat.
All right, state senator, District 23. Let's not waste our time on this. It's Drew Hansen against Byrd. I like Byrd, nice guy, but this is a Democrat stronghold. Is anybody not taking Hansen?
No, it's going to be Hanson, Simmons, and Nance.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah, the
Anybody
23rd.
not taking? Yeah, anybody
Deep
not
Byrd.
taking Simmons for re-election against Robertson?
No.
And anybody not taking Nance for re-election against Miles?
No.
Okay, a lot of quiet. All right, Jesse Young and Addison Richards. Listen, I couldn't vote for Addison Richards because of his stupid haircut. Like, have you seen his haircut? He reminds me of Alfalfa from our gang with a little curly Q and stuff. What the learn how to comb your hair before you run for office. So I'm taking Jesse. Plus, I want Jesse to win. Anybody not taking Jesse Young?
Well, I'll abstain from the 26th and 35th because I'm not in those districts, and I just don't know enough about them.
Can I have your man card?
Sure.
That's one of
You
those
can have my
R's
vote,
that I
too.
think will make it.
Yeah. You can proxy my vote on those. I don't know enough about what districts are doing, so.
Okay. Fair enough. But everybody else is taking Young. I just want to be clear.
I'm absolutely taking Young.
All right. Anybody else not taking Young? All right. Perfect. Next we have Caldeer and Mitchell. Anybody not taking Caldeer?
I mean, it was one simple question. I just asked her what she felt about the state, promoting gender affirming care for minors.
Anybody not taking Caldeer?
She worked way around that one.
She didn't answer it, Paul?
No, hell no.
No.
Really?
Yeah.
No, because she's a garbage human being. Chris.
Talking
She's
about
awful.
Tiffany Mitchell.
Oh, Tiffany Mitchell. I was talking about Caldeer. Sorry. Okay. Anybody not taking Caldeer? Even I'm taking Caldeer, and I didn't
No,
vote for it.
Calder will keep the seat.
All right. And then Travis Couture against DeHart in the 35th.
I got Travis.
I can't envision a time that a Republican doesn't win that. And Travis has done nice work down there in his first.
Travis has raised the money. He's done the work on the ground, and based on his the turnout in that LD, I'll even tell you what the turnout is in that LD as of right now. He's in the 35th.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the turnout in that LD. Nope, that's the wrong one. That's 36. So is right now Republicans are 43% turnout, independents are 9.2, and Democrats are 48 or 47.8%. So even though there's more turnout for for Dems, that's early, and Republicans vote late. And so Travis is in the perfect position to overtake that and to hold his seat. And it's not going to be a 60-40 race, but I don't think he's expecting that. But he's going to win. Travis is going to win, and I think he's done the money. Yeah, he's raised the money and he's done the work on the ground.
Yeah,
the other seat's unopposed, right?
I don't know.
In the 35th.
Yeah. Dan Griffey is not if you are dumb enough to run against Dan Griffey, you deserve to lose. That guy is just he's a stalwart. Yeah. All right. Kitsap County Commissioner, District 1, Rolfus or Hendon. I like Hendon, but he's running as an independent, which I just think hurts him like double.
He's gonna lose because of that.
Yeah. Rolfus has got name recognition. I think she wins. Anybody not agree? Anybody not taking Rolfus?
Oh, and she's a snotty little woman too, man.
We've had her on the show before. She's not been pleasant.
Yeah, she was not a pleasant person.
Oh, see, I know Christine. I get along very well with Christine.
We actually asked her some legitimate questions that were they were telling, right? And she was a snot, just a flat out snot. But
I'm surprised. Yeah, I said I get along well with Christine. I definitely
you're
think,
supposed to.
Yeah. I think I think she's going to take it. Scott barely got over enough votes to get on the ticket.
Yeah.
With the write-in and running as an independent, which I've heard him speak in this race, and he will tell people he's a Republican, but he's running as an independent
because he thinks he's doing himself a favor.
Yeah, I don't see he's not going to garner enough, even remotely enough, to beat her.
That's because he doesn't have a consultant to tell him that he's being dumb.
Yes.
Well,
so Chris Gergen, give him your number before this is over.
This wasn't his first crack at
I think he's run for this seat 3 times.
Yeah,
and this is the third or 3 times before.
Yeah, he hasn't gotten it yet.
The only race that Scott has ever won was his first time he ran for school board, North Kitsap School Board. He won. He lost re-election. He's lost county. He's run for county commissioner multiple times and lost.
Yeah,
he's run for, I think, public utility district and lost. He's run about 10 times and won once.
But let me be clear. I've met Scott a few times.
Yeah,
and a great guy. Like I think he would do a great job if he got there. He just doesn't have. He just doesn't have.
He's not going to be.
He doesn't have
Rolfus.
to go.
He's not going to be Rolfus.
It's a chocolate covered gummy bear, Paul.
That's what this is.
Yeah,
it looks like dirty bones.
No, it's a chocolate covered gummy bear.
Like a chocolate almond cluster or something.
Yeah, chocolate covered gummy bears are the best candy ever, Chris. Just so you know.
Those are chocolate covered sugar free gummy bears.
Yeah, so don't eat a lot.
They should be handled with care.
Don't eat a lot of them.
That's the last one. Eat one. You're good.
It'll go through you like an illegal immigrant across the border. Yeah. All right. Kitsap County Commissioner. What did I say it? Kitsap County Commissioner, District 2, a battle of Republicans. Murphy and Root. On behalf of the show, we've had both of them on at varying parts. We didn't have Root on this election cycle. We had him on before. They're both going to be great. I think Murphy is the guy.
I think Sean is slightly more relatable.
Yeah. Tom, who do you got?
Yeah, Sean's done the legwork. I think he's got this one. It'll be close, but I think he's got it.
Chris, do you have a thought? I know it's a county race, which is
I got Murphy. I got Murphy because Murphy's done the groundwork. Murphy was supposed to be the also ran, and he smoked everybody and outperformed expectations in the primary. He just continued with that kind of the wind behind his back. Mm-hmm. He's kind of as a carefree guy, right? He's like, hell, I'm playing with house money now. I didn't think I would get this far, so why not continue to hit doors? Why not continue to go to the events? Why not continue to make the calls? Why not continue to do fundraisers? And so I think he's done the work. I know both men. I think both are very good men. I like them both. If Orrin wins, I think it's fantastic. And Orrin's a great guy.
Yes.
And veteran, great family. They're both great people. But I think that Murphy's done the work.
Okay. Lori?
Murphy.
Rick?
I'm going to be the outlier this time. I think Root's going to do it. So Darrell Riley he's the write-in candidate for Democrat, basically, because there's only Republicans. I think there is a potential for the Republicans to split a bit. And I could see some of the votes going towards Darrell. He is well known in Bremerton. He does a lot of work down there, but I've heard a lot of Sean's ideas when he's spoken, and the one thing I like is he said a lot of things of, well, I know this isn't the county commissioner's job, but so it's good he acknowledges those aren't the county commissioner's job. But if you spend too much time on things that aren't your job, and I think people will recognize that, at least those that pay attention will have recognized that. And so I think people will go, I think Orrin's a more solid choice.
Okay.
And I think people will lean that way.
Phil, who do you got?
I think
well
Orrin,
reasoned.
I voted for Sean, but
You think Orrin's
I
got
think
it?
Sean's more scrappy, but I kind of think Orrin's probably got it.
The nice thing is, no matter who wins, it's going to be a blessing. I think Orrin is the more solid choice. I'm voting for Murphy, but I do think Orrin's the more solid choice. He's got more name recognition, so we'll see. I'll go with Orrin, but I'll be pleasantly happy if Murphy wins, and I hope Murphy does because I actually he's more personable. I like him.
Okay. And then Tom, we're going to start with you on this. Do Dems get a supermajority?
Which house?
It would have to be both. Do they take over control? Do they get?
So you're saying?
I don't think so. I think it's going to stay squeaky, painful, close, but I don't think so.
Chris?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Lori?
I think it'll be close, but no.
Rick?
If we're talking totally, then no, I don't think they'll do it.
Okay. Phil?
No.
Paul?
Absolutely. I like Chris's answer.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's unavoidable at this point. All right. Let's talk about initiatives. So Initiative 2066, that's the natural gas regulation. It would overturn the state's attempts to stop us from getting natural gas.
You could probably do all four as a block because people are going to go one way or the other on all four.
Oh, you think so? I'm not. Yeah, I'm not.
I was surprised. I was surprised Brandy split it because I think most people are voting all or none.
Everybody that I've talked to, that has been the question.
Okay, well, let's do it that way. Paul, do you think any of them pass? And if so, which ones?
I think that there is enough of a chance, not huge, enough of a chance, as in like 1%, that all four will pass. People will vote yes to pay less. And I'm going to go with that as my
You're going to
answer.
go with yes on all of them?
I think so.
Yes, they're all going to pass.
I think it's going to be all or none. So
okay,
I'll say yes, all four.
Okay, fair enough. I'm going to disagree. I think the natural gas will pass, and I think the long-term care tax will pass. I think that people see that for the sham that it is. I think the other two, no matter how much I'd like them to go away, I think the messaging combined with the way that those bills were written is not going to be beneficial. Tom?
Yes.
Do all four of them pass? Do all four of them fail, or a mix thereof?
So, the way they were written, and the way they're notated in the voters pamphlet and stuff is as discussed earlier, really confusing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Paul's right in the sense that everyone's going to vote one way or the other on all of them. And because I think, especially here in Washington with the way we're taxed, people are voting with their pocketbooks. So I think all four of them do pass.
Okay. Chris?
I won't be surprised if all four don't pass, but
yeah, I think it's a split.
I'm going to root for my Seahawks too.
Let Chris answer. Chris?
So I agree with Brandy on this. I think 2 pass, 2 fail. I think natural gas passes. I think the excise tax fails. Let me give you some justification on why I feel that way.
Good.
If you go to the PDC and you look at the amount of money that has been spent, so you've got Let's Go Washington that is sponsoring these 4 initiatives. They've raised and spent about $9 million. I'm rounding. It's actually 8.8, but let's just say 9. Okay. Defend Washington, which is like the anti Let's Go Washington, has raised and spent about 5.4 million. No on 2109 has raised and spent 4.2 million. No on 2117 has raised and spent 700,000. No on 2066, which is natural gas, only raised and spent about 275,000. Now here's the big turd in the water barrel here. That's a technical term.
Well, hold on. Before you tell that, we'll get you on Facebook only for AM. We'll be back on election night at 4 p.m. Join us then. For those of you on Facebook, stick around. More coverage to come. All right, Outlaw Radio. So, Chris, go ahead and continue. Sorry about that.
No on 2117, which is the carbon tax. And what Brandy said was spot on. Like people getting paid $16 million raised and spent.
Wow.
Just on that one initiative. And then no on 2124. They raised and spent, well, they raised 13.3. They spent $12.2 million. Right. So I think the carbon tax will pass, and I think the natural gas will pass. I don't think the excise tax will pass because I don't think people understand it. And the long-term care, they just came out and blatantly lied and spent millions of dollars on an ad campaign to blatantly lie about how the whole long-term care thing works. And they blasted it into King County. Now,
yeah,
let me tell you about King County real quick. This is important that you guys get this. This is important for the listeners. So King County turnout right now, as of today, 68 or 69% early voting Democrats, 18.4% Republicans.
Wow. It's all
This is a statewide. I mean, King County is the big portion, right? Right. If you don't perform well enough in King, then you're not going to get there. So I think that there are enough people in King County that look at the natural gas and they're like, this is stupid. And then the carbon tax which is the gas tax, right? I think that they're paying $5 a gallon for gas. I think they're tired of that. I think those two, you get enough people in King County to sign on to those two. And then the other two, the long-term care, Republicans clearly are trying to kill grandma with this long-term care thing. So we got to protect grandma.
Yeah.
So,
and the thing I hate about the long-term care is it only gives you like 5 or 6 months worth of long-term care into the amount that they're going to pay out. And then what are you going to do with grandma after that? I mean, you're not really fixing the long-term care issue. You're just buying 5 months.
That's why it's
well, what you're doing is you're giving, see, that's the thing is with the long-term care provision, what you're giving every Washington worker is the opportunity to opt out at any time. Right. And they can opt back in at any time.
Yeah. But I'm just saying the whole long-term tax thing in and of itself is a huge sham.
Oh, it's a total scam.
Yeah, it's a huge dumpster fire. It should go away completely.
Yep,
people opting in a route that don't understand it, it should just go away. Lori, do any of them pass?
I agree that I think most people will be voting in blocks. They either all pass or they don't. I think it's ironic.
Like rain on your wedding day, the free ride that you already paid, the good advice you just didn't
take. Yeah, because you have people in ads talking on and on about how billionaires or Brian Haywood, who's, what is he, a millionaire, multimillionaire, when you're supporting the initiatives, when you have Balmer, Gates, Hanauer, and others who are supporting the no vote on the initiative. So if we're going to talk fair about who's supporting what, then what about the billionaires who are saying vote no? So I agree that they're going to go yes, but my reasoning goes deeper than that. You had 4.5 million people who signed up initiatives, and I believe the natural gas was a very short term to get the signatures in. These are people that are hacked off at this point.
No, I think it was 1.8 million.
It's a yes vote for all 4.
Yep.
You think all 4 pass?
Oh, yeah. People are mad.
So Lori's kind of on the same boat I am, it sounds like. Because things were written so confusingly. Intentionally, right? But the counter to that was really simple. Vote yes, pay less. I mean, that sticks in your head. And for the environment we're living in now with everything so expensive, people are interested in paying less.
Fair enough.
So I think it's going to be powerful, just that simplicity.
Rick, what do you think?
Yeah, I think people are going to vote in blocks. I think if it does split, it'll split like you said. But I think the overall is going to go yes. Let's Go Washington had one ad that I thought and they couldn't do a lot of TV. They just didn't have the money for it. But they had an internet ad. It was, if you're familiar with Shrek, the Shrek movies, that was Pinocchio doing a press conference.
Yeah.
That was a very effective ad, I thought. It was funny. It was stuck with you. But what kind of had me, and I'm guessing we're doing governor last, but there was a Seattle Times talked about a poll talking about the shift in support for the initiatives. And what convinced me that they have a good shot is that the numbers that Seattle Times put out, they weren't positive, but they were very vague. And Seattle, like, they didn't give much information. They didn't give the size of the survey, the poll. They didn't give the scope of it. They just were like, oh, well, it's the support for them has decreased over these months. And so Seattle Times was being a little too vague to make me think that the message was as bleak as they were putting out. If it was solid, they would have put all the numbers out. So I think they're all going to pass. I don't think it's going to be a huge margin, but I think they're all going to pass because, like Lori said, a lot of people are just mad. I also think folks that aren't as willing to vote across party lines are more likely to vote for the initiatives that wouldn't. And I know people who you would not suspect that we're going to vote for the initiatives who have told me they're voting for them. So,
okay. Yeah. And Phil?
I think they are not going to pass except for the gas.
So you think the carbon tax will pass, the other three will fail?
The one for the natural gas.
Oh, the natural gas.
Yeah,
and the other
that's all
three
we
will
can
fail?
pass in this state is gas.
Okay. The other three will fail, though, you're saying?
I think so.
All right.
And
the
he's
last
got a
one,
good point, but that bill, the way it's written up, doesn't say anything about natural gas in it at all. So you'd have to know the bill, right? So, yeah, it's just the whole thing was shitty the way that they wrote all that stuff up.
Paul, who wins the governor's office?
Not the people of Washington. I think it'll be Ferguson, unfortunately.
Does anyone here not think it's going to be? Anyone think it's not going to be?
This is our last one. I want to give everybody a chance to.
I'm going to say Reichert, and for a similar reason.
Yeah,
King 5 did release a survey talking about, within the last couple of weeks, and they had Reichert at 36, but they had Ferguson at 50. Now, if that survey is only Seattle and Bob Ferguson is only doing 50% in Seattle, and now they had a big percentage that was undecided, but if he's only doing 50 in Seattle, that is not good news for Ferguson. And again, a lot of people, same thing, that you would not expect, that are quietly saying or not saying, but are going to mark Reichert. I think the unhappiness with things, and I think anyone that's paid attention knows that Ferguson is just going to be a continuation of Inslee's policies. So
worse.
they're really looking at, they're not looking at it as an independent choice. They're looking at it as a continuation of Inslee. So all of Inslee's negatives carry over on the Ferguson. So, but that's poll is the reason I wrote down Reichert, is because
God bless you for it, Greg.
Yeah. If
All right.
Seattle's only supporting them half, then the rest of the state's got enough votes to carry Reichert over the line.
I'm picking Ferguson, not because I want to, but because the Reichert campaign really, and Chris, I'm going to have you go after me because I want you to respond to kind of what I'm saying. I felt like the Reichert campaign was slow in really getting rolling after the primary. I felt like he was really quiet for a really long time at a time when I thought he should have been an attack dog out there. It just felt like the locomotive didn't start for a couple weeks until after the primary. I don't really understand the direction the campaign took. And it's only been the last 2 weeks that I've really felt like Reichert was out addressing average voters. Now, he was doing a lot of stuff with insiders and GOP backers and all of that, but I just felt like the whole campaign was listless till about 2.5-3 weeks ago. So I've got Ferguson. Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, I think Ferguson wins this. I think it's a 43-54 race, 43-55, something like that. It's so much of top of the ballot, top of the ticket campaigns is about energy and energizing the base. And there's just no energy. I agree. I think they ran a pretty good primary race. I think they raised right around 4 million, I want to say, in the primary, which is, I think they raised 3.8 million in the primary, and they've only raised another 3 million in the general. They needed to have raised 6, honestly, or more. There's just not a lot of excitement. Reichert's not an exciting candidate. And you know, he tried to straddle 2 fences, and I think Brandy alluded to this earlier. And he just never really struck a chord with conservatives. Byrd was a train wreck. Byrd said the right things to. Are you waving at me?
No, I'm telling them to turn off their microphone because I can hear them.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that, buddy.
I think Byrd ran a race that said the right things, but he wasn't the right guy. He didn't do the things on the ground you need to do. And he had problems with the truth, and he concealed things, and he hired all the wrong people, and he wouldn't listen to reason. Didn't raise the money, and then Reichert was kind of the guy, the establishment guy. You know, the turnout this cycle is because of lack of energy at the top of the ticket. It's the bottom line. Voters aren't excited about Ferguson. Democrats are voting for
staying home.
I do. I really do. And you know, Washington voters are very different. They are very different than any other group of voters that I've ever worked with in any other state in this country. They are very unique, and they aren't excited about Harris. They aren't excited about Trump. Now, Trump does have his base, right? And Harris, of course, she has her purple hair, base, but people like Holly. But at the end of the day, nobody's super excited, right? There's just no energy, and so people are going to stay home. They're going to sit on that. And I think it's a shame, but I don't think there's a way right now to win statewide just because of how the registration sits right now.
No, I couldn't agree more, man. I think you're spot on.
So,
all right. So, hold on, let me go back to that. I'm multitasking over here, doing the best I can. Tom, who do you got?
I think it's going to be Sideshow Bob, but I have a question for Chris. So if Dave does manage to pull out a win, because I still have hope that Washingtonians are upset and they want to change direction.
Oh, dude, I'm there with you, man.
I do. I hope.
Preach it.
I hope, but I'm being realistic too. But in the event that Reichert does end up in the governor's office, do you think that can accelerate the timeline for the state Republican Party? Can they restructure faster?
Oh, good question.
So that's there's 2 answers. Can they? Yes. Will they? That's TBD, right? To be determined.
Sure.
I think they can with the right leadership. Currently they don't have the right leadership. If Reichert gets in, Walsh is going to run for re-election. He's already said that he's going to run for re-election. I think if he does get reelected, whether Reichert wins or loses, I think it's a tremendous mistake because he's not, you look at when you go to the PDC, I encourage all your listeners to go look up the PDC reports. Reichert has not only has Ferguson raised $12 million, right? The Democrats have spent another $8 million against Reichert on top of the 12 that Ferguson has spent.
Mm-hmm.
The Jim Walsh and the Republican Party and outside money has only spent $350,000 on behalf of Reichert.
Oh,
yeah.
My God, I didn't realize it was that lopsided.
It's the money hole, right? I mean, it's the money hole.
Absolutely a travesty. When Culp ran, they gave us no money. And I mean, at least Reichert got $350,000. I mean, as a consultant, I'll take $350,000 to go put in some ads. But that's just like not even. If I was Reichert, I would be deeply insulted. I'd be like, dude, keep your money, right? Don't. It's like pity money. It's just disrespectful. And the reason that they didn't have the money to give is because Jim couldn't raise the money. And your sole purpose as a chairman in a gubernatorial cycle is to raise the money for the top of the ticket and to fund the down ballot races.
Yep.
And the top of the ticket, one thing that Riker did didn't do that Culp did, or that I did with Culp, is that we opened our platform to down ballot people to get them in front of crowds that they wouldn't normally be able to
Yes.
draw.
Mm-hmm.
Riker
You guys
didn't
did that
do
at all of your big functions where you had people come out.
Yes, absolutely. And so Riker didn't do that. That's the job of the top of the ticket. That's why, like, when Trump comes in to do a rally, they'll bring in like down ballot people on the platform to expose those candidates to voters that they wouldn't ordinarily be able to get in front of.
Yeah, bigger crowds, develop that name recognition, man, build that
Right.
brand.
Yep.
And so there was just a lot of things, and I'm not gonna, the guys that he's got running his campaign are good guys. I know them. I don't necessarily think they did a real good job in the general, but I think that they did a lot with what they were given, but it's a tough race, man.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
The one other thing I want to point out real quick is too kind of what we talked about in the local races, or like an hour ago. It existed at the beginning of this governor's race too, though, on the Democratic side. Hillary Franz was running in that race and sued Bob Ferguson and brought a lot of things to light. Mark Mullet fought Bob Ferguson on a lot of things, brought a lot of things to light. So again, I think that there could be enough dissatisfied Democrats. They may not vote for Riker, but they may not turn out, or they'll just, they'll leave that box blank because they didn't like what they saw. So I don't know. I said, I'm going to go with Riker. I think, because I agree with what Brandy said too, of if any Republican is going to do it, it's going to be Riker. And so I'm voting for that wave this time, thinking that it could happen. But I mean, we know how things tend to go in this state, but I think there's a lot of dissatisfaction across the state.
All right, Lori, who do you got?
Okay, so I do have reasons. It's Reichert, and here's why. I used to live in King County. I still work in King County. Most of the businesses and most of the people who are in the sphere that I work in are mad. They're upset, and they don't like the financial way that Bob Ferguson has run the AG office. There's several lawsuits that garnered hardly any money, but millions upon millions were spent just to get a verdict, and it was ridiculous. The other part of it is they're done. They're done with the craziness that has become the DNC in Washington State, or sorry, DNC, but the Washington Democrat Party. They're done with it. They're done with having their small businesses or their houses burned, garbage, litter, people, in the name of homelessness and taking care of them and being compassionate, and we're not doing a damn thing.
Yeah.
And so people are pissed. I mean, that's pretty much why I left. And then you have big business or big employers in Seattle proper who are now trying to get their employees to come back. And their employees are like, you can't protect me. So-and-so engineer got killed. So-and-so engineer is now permanently disabled, and they've got a good rationale. So where was Bob Ferguson in all of this?
He was clearly the security and safety guy, right?
Yeah, he was the top cop, and that didn't happen. So I think Riker is the choice. I agree with you, Rick. It's
you guys
now
made
or
me
never.
feel better, so thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of the on the street, and then the folks that are in the know on some of these things. There's a lot of dishonesty in the ads. Yeah, like there's the one where it talks about
all of it.
Well, there's one that talks about how it says Bob Ferguson will use the $1 billion gained from the opioid lawsuits. Yeah. Well, I can tell you that the money that has come in from those lawsuits has already been distributed. Mm-hmm. And when it came into individual municipalities, there were no strings attached. Mm-hmm. And it was up to the individual municipality to decide how to spend that money. Right. So to now campaign on saying how he will spend that money and saying he's going to spend it a certain way,
anyone that's involved in that process knows that that's absolutely untrue.
Right.
Because it's, like I said, it's already been dispersed.
Gotcha.
You
It's
know,
not available.
there's the one that says he's going to take away 4-year degree requirements for many state jobs. That law was passed last year.
Yeah.
So that's already a law. So, you know, so there's the feeling on the street, and then there's the folks that know some of this stuff that already are watching those ads and saying, that's just not true. So I think there's just enough pockets of that around that's going to push it over the top.
All right, we got to wrap this really quick. Phil, do you have a pick on Governor? Slideshow Bob. All right.
I'm happy about it.
None of us are. None of us are.
So I've got one little quip that I'm gonna end the night with. So some stuff that's coming in later this evening, and the report is the joy is gone. Reporting from an unnamed source within the Harris campaign that hard conversations were ongoing inside the Harris campaign headquarters tonight. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz met with campaign manager Julie Chavez, Jen O'Malley, Dylan, and campaign co-chair Gretchen Whitmer to review voting data. To some of the Chris's points from earlier, the meeting was described as, and I quote, somber. Harris was told to prepare herself mentally for a devastating loss on Tuesday.
Wow. What's
the source on that?
I don't have a source on it. It's one of those things where
who's reporting it is what I'm saying.
As we're talking, I'm trying to go back through and find it. So because, you know, it's one person reports it, then another, and another. So I'm like, been sitting here trying to go back. I haven't gotten all the way back yet.
All right. So for those of you who are,
I'll let you know though. If I get it, I'll send it to you.
For those of you that are big fans of the football picks, we're not doing those tonight. I've emailed them out. Everybody will get them to me by Thursday. Hint, hint, hint. Get them to me by Thursday.
Hey, Kevin, can I share? I brought this tonight. I wanted to share.
Yeah, please do.
So in our talk of politics tonight. So this is a book that we're reading up in Polsbo, and it's incredibly applicable because it talks about division in politics and people. The first 3 chapters are sorting, othering, and siloing. And it talks about the idea of us self-sorting into our own groups of who we agree with, othering those that don't, and then living in a silo that reinforces our own opinions. So far, I'm not finished it, but it's a very good book. If you want to hold it up, see, just if anyone's interested, it's a local author. We're going to be doing a book read next Saturday on this up in Polsbo after the Veterans Day Parade. And so it's a really good read. I was happy. I'm happier with it than I thought I would be, to be honest. And I encourage other folks to look at it because we need to learn to talk to each other again.
Awesome. Good idea. All right. You'll be in studio with us on Tuesday, correct, Rick?
Yep. I'm going to come here straight from work.
You know what time you'll be here, give or take?
So it'll be 4-ish.
Okay.
So
We'll go live at 4. So if you're a few late, I can just talk to myself. If you
2 waves of dinner.
It's going to count on Gorst. Just
Two.
what Gorst looks like.
2 waves?
2 waves of dinner. 5, 6:30.
Oh, okay.
Plenty of Mexican food.
Chris,
Yeah.
we're gonna have Mexican
Margaritas.
food in house on Tuesday. You gonna be in the area? You want to come in? Or you gonna be in
No,
Vegas?
man. I wish I was. I'll be down here in Vegas at the hopefully the victory party here in Las Vegas. So, yeah. And
We'll
listen,
leave you alone. But if you get a few minutes on Tuesday and you want to come on, we'd love to have you on.
I'd love to. And I want to say to all the University of Washington football fans out there, congratulations on the win. And they beat, I think, USC, right?
Yeah,
yesterday?
USC.
Yeah, and I want to say go Ducks because I am an Oregon Duck fan.
What?
So.
No, it's fair, man. They got a good team.
Chris, come on, man.
No, give them a break. The Ducks have a good, maybe even a great.
I went to high school in Eugene, and Dark Horse Political was started in Eugene. And yeah, so go
Do you know what
Ducks.
the O in the middle of Autzen Stadium stands for, Chris?
Orgasm?
No, the number of national titles the Ducks have won.
Oh, that's true.
That's
Yeah,
true.
there you go. Maybe this year we'll change it.
Maybe. Chris, do you have any parting shots? Anything finally you want to say before we let you? And listen, even after this whole election cycle is over, man, I consider you a friend of the show. I consider you a personal friend. I want to keep the dialogues going, keep the communications going. I still want to hit the strip with you.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll do it, man. I'm always available. And, to all the candidates out there, some cycles are better than others, but, you have my deepest admiration for actually putting your name on the ballot, hitting the pavement, going out there and doing it. And, people criticize, people talk, people say a lot of different things, but until you've been willing to pick up the sword and go in the arena, it's different when you're out there. And so I salute all of you guys, and regardless of how it all turns out. So a lot of respect for all of you for running. So absolutely.
Awesome. Phil, parting shots for you, my friend.
I have some. I came across this from a friend. And I think it's worth reading here. Things are going to change in this week in our nation. Weighty decisions will be made that will have long-term consequences. And yet the church is not tossed around like a boat in the storm. No matter what happens, the truth remains unchanged, unchangeable.
There you go.
There you go. All right, buddy. Lori, parting shots for you.
If you haven't voted, please, for the love of everything in your life, go vote.
Absolutely.
Can I double that and say, please go to the website, the state website, and double check the status of your ballot.
My wife did that, and it's not recognizing her driver's license, and
What do you
so
mean
she's
driver's license?
because the ballot didn't come to the house, so you have to go through this process on the website, and it's not recognizing her date of birth, so she's going to have to go do a provisional ballot.
Yeah.
Fun.
Tom, parting shots for you, my friend.
Yeah, after Tuesday,
we may not see Tom for a while.
No, just after Tuesday, try to be friendlier to the people around you.
100%.
God bless you for that.
Yeah, let's go ahead and focus on trying to be a little.
Remind ourselves that we share more things.
Yeah, we share more in common than we do that separates us. We're just
there's more that unites America.
Yeah.
Than
Let's just all
angels.
try to be a little less shitty to each other.
Yeah. Dennis, do you have any parting shots, man? I know you haven't talked at all tonight, but do you have anything you
except
want to say?
Holly. Fuck her. Nah, she's just a nasty person.
Here's a good parting shot. If you have 20 minutes of your life you want to donate to some good entertainment, watch the Mike Tyson, Jake Paul press conference.
Oh, yes. Is that on YouTube?
Don't just me.
Yes.
And Jake Paul thinks he's in the WWE.
Yeah, well,
nice.
I don't get a lot of those. I don't watch any of those pay-per-views at all because I just don't care about them. I'm getting this one because I'm going to watch.
I'll watch it with you.
I'm going to watch half. I'm not going to pay. I'm going to use that app. And
It's
we're going to
free.
stream it to the TV.
Oh, hell
It's
yeah.
on Netflix.
On
It's
Netflix,
free.
Oh, okay.
Is that free?
Because it ain't going to last that long.
I had
Awesome.
Netflix. I thought it was on pay-per-view.
All right.
And-
Yeah,
and
me
this
too.
is what
Mike Tyson is going to fuck his ass up.
Jake
You
Paul,
think so? I hope so.
Yeah.
Love it.
But yeah, that's a good one.
Thank you for
Dennis.
that. I'll
Love you,
suggest.
buddy.
I'll
Rick?
watch that on the ride home.
So
Parting shots. buddy.
yeah, very similar to what Tom said. Well, like one of the reasons I like this book is when I saw the author was Works of Braver Angels, which is all about working with each other. And yeah, after Tuesday night, regardless, we have to work with each other, no matter what. I mean, it's for the best of the whole state, for the best of our communities. We have to work together.
Yeah,
even when we don't agree, you have to work with each other. We didn't talk about who we're going to vote for tonight. We talked about who we thought would win. The one race I will say who I voted for because I endorsed him is Greg Nance.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and that will probably surprise some people. But I've worked with Greg since he went into the House as an appointee. I think Greg's done a great job. Greg asked me if I would endorse him, and I said absolutely. And I think he's done great work. Regardless of party,
for all schmucks had a stroke.
Regardless of party, we have to work together.
What's the matter, Rick?
And I'm not poking any beehives tonight.
Yeah.
I'll poke the beehives. What's up, Posmo for all? How you little fuckers doing tonight? Go ahead. Sorry.
So
thanks for endorsing us, by the way, Posmo
Yeah.
for all. We love
But
you.
that's what we have to do. Greg, I say Greg's done a great job. And that we haven't. I know Hanny commented last week when I commented on what Greg's done. I said, yeah, you have to give folks credit where credit's due, and you have to work with everyone, regardless of if you agree with them before the election. You got to work with them after it, and so I think that's the most important. And I just want to give shout out to a Olympic League. We have a 3-way tie between Bainbridge Island High School, North Kitsap High School, and Olympic High School going into the playoffs.
Yeah.
So
how about those Bremerton Knights?
Yep.
The
I was just happy
Olympic
that
game Friday will be on KITZ.
Who's playing?
I can't remember.
Okay.
Yeah,
we
they
got
were
a
supposed
big
to do that
game
stuff tonight,
But,
but
yeah, it's,
today they were supposed to do all the brackets. But
Yeah.
going into the Friday night, we came out with it was a 3-way tie, so that was interesting. I know our kids have had a rough year, a lot of injuries, the loss of Coach Snyder, This summer at camp, he passed away unexpectedly. So yeah, it's been a rough year. And so, just shout out to those kids. They've done a great job. And then, Dan Spoonmaker over in Bainbridge, he left us to go over there. But I'm happy for him having a good season. So
nice.
It's going to be interesting playoffs in the high school, which is the only football I watch.
Yeah.
So
All right, I'm going to get my parting shots, and I'll let Paul give his last. I don't normally give Paul the last word, but I'm going to. I got 3 parting shots really quick. One, I think the best thing that I've gotten out of this show, even though we're tracking these elections that are not going to go the way we want them to in a lot of cases, but we've made some really good relationships. I count Chris among that. We built a relationship with Brandy over the last several months. We meet a lot of good people. Jesse, I consider a friend through this show, although it's been years with him. So I think I'll come out of what Tom said as well, and just the fact of, just remember that there are people behind these issues, and because the issues suck doesn't mean the people suck. And there's a lot of conversations that can still be had. That's the first thing. The second thing, I will echo what who said it in chat. I want to give her credit. Oh, Tegan said it. Don't mail your ballots. Drop it at a ballot box. Drop it at the city hall. Yeah. Drop it at the county offices. Drop it somewhere. Don't mail it, and then track that sumbitch through the online website. Don't just assume that because you dropped it in the mailbox, it got somewhere, because it may not have.
Don't just assume it got to where it was supposed to go in a ballot box either. Those seem to catch on fire.
Yeah.
It's only been 2.
Yeah.
Only 2.
So track your stuff.
Too many.
The third thing I want to say on a personal level, the greatest thing that's ever happened to me in my life, greater than the birth of my kids, better than my time in the military, better than the time that joining the federal government, is when those fuckers from Paul's Boat for All recognized us and loved us and shared the stories about us and talked about us. I love you, Paul's Boat for All, you liberal sons of bitches, and I'm just so glad you guys care about this show. Paul's Boat for All. See Kyle. All right, Paul.
I thought you were going to say it was your colonoscopy.
No, I did. Listen, I did not get a colon. To answer your question, I did not get a colonoscopy, but I did poop in a box, and I mailed the box off, and they mailed it back to me, and they said, all of your results are good. I don't need to have a finger up my ass.
I will drive you home. Schedule the appointment.
Thank you, Rick.
Oh my goodness. Okay. All right. That's awkward to follow. Listen,
Paul,
Chris, the next time
have
you're
you had
up
a finger
here
in your ass, Paul?
and this,
I have to go get one of those.
Do you again?
Oh yeah.
So
it's my time.
My dad had prostate cancer, so I absolutely have had that procedure more times than I care to mention, and I've had a colonoscopy.
It is incredibly awkward.
That is one of the most important men's health things you can do.
Yeah, very
do
awkward.
it, brother.
Yes, it
Trying
is.
Holly,
trying
listen,
to give a final message, being interrupted by your co-host to talk about a finger up the ass.
Holly, don't put yours in the mail.
You guys say that like it's a bad thing.
Because whether you and I vote the same or not, your vote is as important as mine. So drop it off in the right place and track it, Paul.
We sure no more ass finger in comments.
Well, I just want to say I was talking about a camera
one
on my
more.
ass, not a finger.
All right,
that'll be Dennis's new OnlyFans account.
Are we still going with this?
The camera in his anus.
Still going with this. Okay.
Pull-ups only.
Yeah. So anyway, I will say I poke some fun at Holly, and I do that because she makes a lot of personal shots. But I seriously, I would.
You said "fuck you, Holly." That's poking fun.
Yeah. Can I
go ahead, Paul?
Thanks. You sure?
Just curious.
All right, brother. I love you too.
Love you.
Make sure to interrupt you every 30 seconds.
Chris, we love you too, buddy. Just we haven't forgotten about you.
Anyway, all I was going to say with Chris, the next time you're up here, everybody else that's in here, you will get a chance to come to my new paintball field that will be opening up very shortly. Not going to disclose the location yet, but it is in Central Kitsap. We've got about, out of a 72-acre parcel, we've got about 30 acres we're going to have the opportunity to use. Full professional fields, turf, large outdoor fields. We're going to have a lot of fun. And I will remind everybody, and like I started to say, I do poke fun at Holly because that's only because she takes a lot of personal shots at us. As Kevin said, her vote is as important as everybody else's, and it takes everybody on the different sides of the conversation to make everything happen. So God bless you all. Do your civic duty and vote.
Absolutely.
That'll wrap the show. So again, just a reminder, Tuesday, 4:00 until whenever we're done. It'll probably be 9:30 or 10 at the earliest. I can't imagine it being any earlier than that. Wednesday, we will do our
I can. Trump could, by 8:00, we could be calling that race.
Well, but
And
we
show
still, have,
over.
we still have the state
We're done.
offices to do. Wednesday, we will have our normal show from 7 to 9, although I won't be here, but we will still have the normal show from 7 to 9.
Oh, wait, you're going to do like this big long show on Tuesday and then ask everybody to show up the next day to do a whole nother show.
I was scheduled at church. Sorry. It is what it is.
Dude, you're using church as an excuse?
It's the only reason why I wouldn't be here. It's the night after the election. I mean, I thought about asking church to get out of it, but I gave my word.
Holly called you out.
Yeah.
I
Good job,
I
Holly.
gave my word.
It's,
and I'm gonna keep my
as
word.
Kevin's witness, he actually called me about a month and a half ago about this and said that he had multiple shows on because you're preparing for something, right?
Yeah, I'm actually on platform performing, singing, praising for the Christmas service, which is literally 4 services, and it's a big thing, a lot of music and stuff.
The best part about it, folks, is that means on shows when Kevin is not here, there will not be one single fucking Christmas song playing.
That's right. That's right.
But on Sundays, Dennis. Chris.
On Sundays, Dennis will be sitting over there.
Thanks for being up late with us tonight, man. We
100%,
appreciate
man.
it.
Thanks for having me.
I do want to maintain this relationship with you.
100%.
After this. You're phenomenal.
And I said, man, we'll get you and Jesse out. You guys can come out and play some paintball with us.
You know what? I kind of feel like I'm going to get out there and like every one of my enemies that I know I have in Washington State are going to be out there. And you guys are going to get me in a kill box. And then I'm going to end up, leaving with a bunch of red bumps all over me.
No, I've got all the protective gear you'll need.
Okay. Good deal.
You get everything. You get everything. All right.
All right. Good night, everybody. We love you. We appreciate you. This is Outlaw Radio Network in conjunction with Dark Horse Political. Special thanks to all of our guests tonight, including, of course, Chris Gergen, Rick Eckert, BRANDI KRUSE, Frank Aquila, and Phil, who actually talked more than once. Good night. We'll see you on Tuesday, 4 p.m. election night.
Peace, truce, bespeta, adios.
Outlaw Radio.
Good night.
Oh, colonoscopy, a wonderful procedure, is everyone